You're up and it's still dark. Kick back with a cup of joe. You know you've got friends waiting on 1620 The Zone. It's Happer and Schaefer. It's Connor and Mike. Listen on the radio stream or YouTube or podcasts. Anytime it feels right. It's Happer and Schaefer. It's Happer and Schaefer. It's Happer and Schaefer. It's Happer and Schaefer.
All right, good morning and welcome in. Happy Wednesday. It's Happer and Schaefer, as you can tell, on 1620 The Zone and on 1620thezone.com. Connor Happer, Mike Schaefer, also known as Connor and Mike. A comment right away on the YouTube stream from Jordan. He was outside the circle and he was set. He was outside the circle and he was set. He was outside the circle and he was set. If we're talking about the same thing, which I believe we are, in that Sam Hoiberg late in the game for Nebraska as they took their first loss in nearly an entire year last night at Michigan. Good morning, Schaefer. How you doing?
I am struggling, not because of the result last night or the broadcast or the officiating, but because the sickness has come for me.
Great.
So
excellent.
I'll just try to stay over here, focus that way. I got my own spit sock.
Are you interested in joining in the YouTube stream this morning?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I should get interested.
All right.
Sorry.
Miami, they're showing highlights on ESPN right now. Miami of Ohio once again scraped by, and they remain undefeated. Arizona, of course, kind of scraped by against BYU 2 nights ago, and so I suppose we're down to 2 in college basketball as the undefeateds go. Arizona and Miami of Ohio. Like I said, welcome to the show, everybody. Good morning. We have plenty of hoops to talk about. Sam McEwen will join us at 8:30. He is our lone guest, powered by the Rooferees at John Higgins Weather Guard. We want to hear from you all today. 402-951-1620 on the Prairie Flower Casino Zone hotline. You can call or text that number, and we encourage you to do so. You can call or text it at 402-951-1620. Email Connor, Mike, Joey, 1620thezone.com. Of course, tweeted us at HappenSchafe, at Connor Happer, at Mike J. Schaefer, at Joe Warcola. Good morning, everybody. So, yeah, it was one team lost in, I don't know if it was excruciating fashion. It certainly wasn't as painful as, I
would argue they lost in predictable fashion, given like how these things tend to go.
Yeah, I mean, especially considering, like, once you got to a certain point of the game, and I think there will probably be a conversation we had today about moral victories and things like that. But, like, once you get to a certain point in the game, you're like, all right, I'm not sure if they're going to make it here, just like, but they're in it, and I'm good with that at one moment in the game. So I don't know if you could call that loss excruciating last night, but it was painful for Nebraska. It was excruciating for Creighton, excruciating in a variety of different ways. I think from the very start of the game, they played horribly and unconnected and let the dunking team of all teams, the dunking team. A
lot of dunks before I turn that thing off.
They were dunking all over the place. They were just taking it to them, taking it to the rim over and over and over and over and over again. And Creighton had really no response until offensively they kind of jolted themselves alive in the second half to make the score look semi-respectable. But they got drubbed at Marquette last night, and it seemed like the Golden Eagles could have picked their number.
Semi-respectable seems a little, it's still a 24-point loss.
Yeah, I mean, sorry. Yeah. I apologize, Schaefer. I'm backing up. I'm backing up today, I guess, because last night, all of a sudden, Creighton lost, and I get a bunch of tweets at like 10:30 at night, and it's like, hey, are they on the bubble anymore? I'm like, no.
I think
what do you think? 12 hours ago, they kind of were, and I wasn't very, hardline stance on that. After the game in Milwaukee last night, they're no longer very near that. You can't do that. You can't do that. All right. So Sam McEwen is joining today at 8:30. And that is our lineup. Elsewhere today, we have plenty of Nebraska ball topics. Yesterday, we got a Big Ten football schedule. Joey predicted some things like mildly accurately.
I was impressed for just taking complete stab in the dark.
Right.
He hit some things, and there was a few that were off, but also
there he is. Get him on the YouTube stream.
Also correct in the capacity of which he was going for. So, I feel like Joey handled himself well.
I think he did excellent.
I think some of it, Happer, is that it's an unbalance with the 9. So you have the 5 and the 4. So being able to structure it with 9 different teams one way, 9 different teams the other way,
right?
Having it all meet. I mean, that is not easy work. And Joey does it for fun.
Are you complimenting the Big Ten schedule?
No.
And its gigantic conference.
Here's my question: what Nebraska schedule would you have if you're the Huskers? Would you have the one I made or the one the Big Ten established for the Cornhuskers, where in November they finished their last 4 games with 3 of them on the road?
I would have to look at yours again, but two home games after October 10th is challenging.
Yeah.
I mean, it was always going to be we said this yesterday. I think if we didn't, we probably should have. It was always going to be a situation where you're going to have 5 road games and you're going to have 4 home games, and it's hard to do. And there's one less bye week because of the way the schedule works this year. And so, that one of those games is probably going to be on a Friday as well. So it's not going to get any easier. So there was only so many different ways you could cut the cake for Nebraska's schedule. And very few of them you're going to come out saying, oh, that's not bad. But I actually think they got close to one of them yesterday as the schedule was released.
Yeah, I mean, given that there was no change of who your 9 opponents were going to be, and that 3 of your 4 home games include Washington, Ohio State, and Indiana, the schedule is always going to look rough regardless of the order. And how it lays out, there's certainly the pathway to them to getting to their new comfort level of 7 and 5. They're going to have
the path.
The path.
There is the path.
There's a new path in town.
Excellent.
So we can discuss that path starting today all the way up until the path eventually gets taken out. However that happens, whenever that happens, and if it happens,
is exciting.
Is that the path where Nebraska will win all their games until they hit November?
No.
You're gonna have to win definitely your first 5. In order,
that's the path.
In order to make the path work,
that schedule, they have to beat Michigan State and Maryland,
in
succession, like they did this previous year.
People forget,
and they'll have to do it in a different way, where they are at Michigan State and Maryland is at home. But I look at the fact that you have that runway to kind of work the kinks out with your new quarterback and everything else as you get into conference play, and this is If Nebraska is going to do anything this year, they're going to have to take full advantage of those first 5 games.
No doubt about it.
Because after that, it gets very difficult.
So we will discuss that in further depth. Indeed, it does, as we go on throughout the show today. But as always, we like to hear from you guys, and we appreciate when people take time out of their mornings to call us at 6 o'clock. And for that, we go to Creighton Andrew on the Prairie Flower Casino Zone hotline. Good morning, Andrew.
This guy.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Not that good, but okay.
What a piss poor effort last night.
It was bad.
That was just.
You're talking about Peacock, right?
Yeah, it was bad on both sides. Yeah.
But what's the deal with Greer? If these other guys are playing like a bunch of bums, why don't we put Greer in? I mean, if he's the future.
Well, I mean, he played a lot last night.
These guys were starting. Could we bench some of them? And my buddy Owen, I love me some Owen. Is everything with these guys a 1-year contract?
That I don't. That there's no way of knowing. I guess I assume so. I know one of the standard practices with it was in general, not at Creighton, but like in general in college athletics, they were trying to, maybe do 2-year deals so they could get some, so they could stay. I don't know. I don't know what the case is for any particular player.
Because we need to cut that load. I'll tell you what. He's just killing us. We're paying a lot of money for a guy to do nothing.
Yeah, well, yeah. At the same time, it's hard. It's hard for him to kill them last night when he wasn't on the floor / 0% responsible for what happened. But
Well,
I
I
understand
know.
he was what he was supposed to be.
He was supposed to be something big. He was, and he's not.
Yeah,
And I'm telling you right now, this is Max last year. I think he's done with all this portal crap. I would be. And I wonder if Creighton goes back to player development through high school kids.
yeah. And thanks for the call, Andrew. We'll let you go. But I mean, first of all, I could definitely see this being Max last year. Second of all, like they're going to like.
It's going to be a blend, like every other team in the
Of course.
country. It has to be a blend.
Yeah.
There's no program that can basically say we're only going to build it this way.
They're going to bring in transfers too, and they're going to continue to bring in transfers. And sometimes it just doesn't work, where you get a couple bad breaks. Like Owen got hurt and never got back, and maybe it wasn't a fit in the first place, but maybe we'll never know because he was never
got started as to how you would want it.
Yeah, he was never healthy at the right time, and so I don't like. I think there were some people talking about. And like I said, we'll talk about this a little bit later, but like, I think there were some people talking about culture and all that stuff. Like, obviously it doesn't look good when you're not playing well and you didn't show up the way you didn't show up last night, but like they're good guys. I think they're missing some teeth. I think they're missing some real like juice and oomph that they've had from like real alpha dudes over the last several years, but these aren't bad people. like it's not like a bad. I don't think it's a bad culture fit. I just don't think that this team was ever able to really get off the ground. And now we're talking about it in the past tense and things like that. As far as Greer is concerned, played 9 minutes last night. And they have shown they are not afraid to bench anybody literally at any time. And so that's one of the issues with this team. Actually, they've had 4,000 different lineup combinations with guys in and out, and guys have to get benched because of this and that.
For a spark, or you're navigating, depth issues, or like the reality is they're an undersized team that's not particularly good defensively, and so you have to sort of do some things. And if you don't shoot well to start a game, you put yourself in a big hole. I mean, they just didn't play. They didn't have it at all last night in the first half of the game. In the second half, they found something. That was after Marquette probably let off a little bit of the gas. But part of the issue is you're not going to be able to get stops on defense. And once you don't get stops on defense, that might leak into your offense, and then ball gets rolling downhill. It's got to start with defense, and it usually does in any singular game or with a singular team. So let's take a break as we open things up here on a Wednesday. Like I said, I always like to hear from you guys. 402-951-1620. Feel free to call or text in. We'll talk about the hoop schemes from last night, the schedule, how Bill Belichick didn't get into the Hall of Fame. Far be it from this show to stump for Bill Belichick, but I mean, come on. Are we not? We're not all Bill Belichick.
I mean, given the conversation about Bill Belichick over the last year, maybe I guess I'll just speak for myself. Far be it from me to stump for Bill Belichick, but I don't know how that happens. And also in the NFL, is this the offseason of downgrading at head coach?
Very fair question.
We're
looking at you, Buffalo,
Pittsburgh.
They love that horizontal pass game.
Whatever Baltimore is going to end up doing, there's going to be possibly Miami. Like we're gonna have some downgrades this offseason. So plenty to come on Happer and Schaefer on 1620 The Zone. Oh, here we go. This is a great text to read to Mike J. Schaefer. Here's Wes, who writes in, people blaming the officiating for the Husker loss need to stop. Nebraska had more than enough chances to win still with all the turnovers they forced on Michigan, and if they didn't miss as many shots under the basket like they did, GBR. Do you have any thoughts on that?
There's absolutely it is true. They missed multiple shots underneath the rim. Berkay had at least 3 himself that if you make any one of those, things look a little bit different. And Sam Hoiberg had the layup that uncharacteristically put it a little bit hard off the glass and it rolls off the front end of it. And so things look differently if they make those shots or if they're able to extend out the lead. At the same time, I think it's fair to have some annoyance with how the game was officiated in general.
Yes.
I think it's fair to point out that one of the biggest plays of the game was a referee crew that just loved calling everything on one end of the court, swallowing their whistle while a player barrels through another set outside of the cylinder. In Sam Hoiberg at the very end of it. Fred Hoiberg, who never talks about officiating despite having ample opportunity to.
That was the worst one.
In this garbage conference.
That was the worst one by
couldn't
far.
help to couldn't help to point out that one at the end of the game. So I can certainly live with the idea that Nebraska did not play well enough in the second half to close out Michigan. At the same time, I can also have the idea that the officiating was poor throughout much of that contest and basically ushered Michigan, who didn't have to make any shots in the second half. They made, 5 field goals?
Let's check.
They had 5 field goals in the second half because they spent their entire time at the free throw line.
Yeah.
Because they just got ushered there by the virtue of some actual fouls and quite a few that are okay, we're going to call this
made shots.
We're calling this, but we're definitely not calling this consistent.
Yeah, I think they
Yeah, I mean, I totally can live with the idea that Nebraska missed uncharacteristically were bad around the rim at times last night. Some of that is Michigan's size and what you're dealing with there. Some of it was, by the end of it, Nebraska's legs were dead. I mean, they had no shooters left on that floor. And once they went down, it was going to be very hard for them to.
You know what's funny? I felt like about midway through the second half, I felt like Michigan was the tired team.
Well, they looked at
because they had been just spent all night just being hounded by Nebraska's.
And if they weren't ushered to the free throw line 23 times, they don't win that game.
Exactly.
That's the other part of this.
So I felt like on the, because people are going to talk about today the free throw discrepancy, which I always get a little bit bothered when we talk about free throw discrepancy because it ignores the style of play and things like that from both sides. 3 of 4 for Nebraska at the free throw line, 19 of 23. I felt like Michigan, Nebraska probably got there the appropriate amount of times. Maybe they could have earned a couple more trips to the line based on how they had to play last night because of what they were missing. And they knew they had to win it from behind the 3-point line. And they made 10 threes in the first half, right? And so that all came to fruition, and that's what kept them in the game. So getting there 3 or 4 times, I definitely felt like Michigan should have been there less.
Yeah,
certainly in the second half where they went to the free throw line 100 different times. And then obviously there was the controversial ones at the end of the game. But I just want to get out in front of that one because come on, 4 to 23. This is ridiculous. Nebraska did not play a style that was conducive to getting themselves to the free throw line last night. And they shouldn't have. And they couldn't have in order to be in that game. I just felt like Michigan got a couple freebies.
Yeah. And to me, the argument against it is Michigan got 3 free throws on a guy who launched himself in a 3-pointer into Nebraska. We never saw a replay of it, which I will get to that.
We'll do the Peacock part. Don't worry.
So they had 3 there.
Maybe in a
they
different
had
segment.
8 free throws just off of rebounds, some of which they're just all over the back of Cale Jacobson.
Yeah.
You don't, over the back doesn't exist. I understand that. You still don't get to go through somebody on your way to the rebound. You don't get to go over top of a body that's established underneath of it. And multiple times Nebraska got called for that. It wasn't that they got called for fouls in the act of Michigan going up to the basket. They got called for fouls in the act of rebounding, often when they were in position to do so while Michigan was playing through them. So if you cut that down by a third and we actually get a real look at the foul that was called on the three-pointer, never mind you that Jamarcus Lawrence got hit on a three that he made that they didn't call, by the way.
The one where on the
you
Jamarcus
could
Lawrence
take this
run
down to like 17 free throw attempts for Michigan to 4 for Nebraska. It would still fit the flow of the game, and Michigan wouldn't have won. You know why? Because they would have had to make shots on the floor, which you comment that Nebraska didn't make. Neither did Michigan. They just got the police escort. Oh, excuse me, the referee escort to the free throw line.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. No, I didn't mean anything by Nebraska not making shots.
No, I wasn't talking about you. I'm talking about cutting off the whole argument. And it's not, I don't think that Nebraska, like that game wasn't entirely officiating. Nebraska ran out of juice. They had 5 players effectively for the second half. Jared Garcia was so bad in the first half, they wouldn't put him in the rest of the game. He couldn't move. He had 2 horrible turnovers. Yeah. Leo Curtis played the most minutes of his career.
It was great.
And he had 2 outstanding left hook shots.
I was amazed.
I was super impressed by how he played. I mean, honestly, Nebraska has absolutely nothing that it should remotely feel bad about today. And hopefully they can just get their legs back under them for this Illinois game on Sunday. That's going to be very, very important. The frustrating thing is I thought they played better than Michigan for the majority of that game, if not the entirety of it, and they don't have anything to show for it.
Yeah, I think Michigan did a good job in the second half of really changing up their coverages because they
got to play physical and they got away with it a little bit too.
Nebraska absolutely picked them apart in the prepared.
They look lazy.
Achieved by virtue of the fact that they are capable of positionally defending, right? Like they have length. There's no doubt they do. They have length, and I think that scares some people and things like that. But if you run into a team like Nebraska certainly was tonight, who is very confident in itself, very confident in what it's doing, and man, they are. I continue to be impressed by them as passers all across the board, 1 to 5. Obviously, the highlight pass last night was Berke's on the cut, which was unbelievable, fantastic. But they even
put a little spin on that.
Yeah,
thing
he checked it in
to get that to kick up. It was. I mean, that's basketball porn, right there.
That was the highlight play, the highlight pass of the night for them last night. But like they are. The takeaway is the same every single game for Nebraska. They're so confident in what they do, and the confidence comes from doing it over and over and over again, and then having success with it. And they just absolutely took it to Michigan in the first half. Unfortunately, Nebraska didn't have especially in the first half, they didn't have the defensive personnel to
stay in the paint.
And that's why I wondered about them defensively in the second half, because and Michigan obviously changed it up on them a little bit, but and then it turned into just like kind of a rock fight on both sides. But I felt like in the second half, Michigan got a little bit more teeth to them. They started just blowing screens up and things like that, and using their length to their advantage. So credit to them for I think sort of making that adjustment. But in the first half, I mean, they could have picked. I didn't check the shot quality. I don't. I want to go take a look at that. I would imagine you couldn't have probably drawn up much better of a first half for Nebraska in terms of the quality of shots that they got in the game, and they almost made all of them too. I mean, they shot 50% for the field in the first half.
I think it was 55%, but Michigan shot 66 because they had basically. I mean,
the shot quality had to have been off the absolute charts.
For Michigan, I mean, some of it for Nebraska is you'd vacate space and a 6'10" guy could move right in there. You'd lob it up to the rim. I felt like Michigan could have done that more in the first half than they even actually did. And they did it, 3-4 times, including right at the end of the half. So, it is one of those where Nebraska comes out and you score the 50 points right away. And the offense is moving and everything's hitting and you look great on that end. And it's just, you look back on it, it's like, man, if you could have drilled in just a little bit more in the first half, you have a 50-44 lead or something like that. It makes it that much harder if everything plays out the same way as it does in the second half. I mean, if nothing else, we learned that this team, against whatever the odds are in front of it, do not care. The way that they came out and just ripped the nets from the outside shooting of Sanford and Lawrence. I mean, just it was outstanding. And I don't think Michigan was prepared for Nebraska to show up and give them a fight. I mean,
it didn't seem like
that was a big part of it. And again, that's why it's frustrating, because I feel like the team that played or showed up better or with the right way to show up in basketball didn't end up leaving with the win through really no fault of its own, just ran out of a little bit of gas at the end. And frankly, had to watch a team make all of their baskets from the free throw.
And this is not a
that layup that wasn't called the charge. That was like their first basket from the floor.
It is right there.
In like how many minutes? They didn't make shots from the floor. Like people,
I can check on that for you.
People just don't remember this, but Michigan made almost everything from the free throw line for a large stretch of the under 8. It's just like they kept going to the line, going to the line. Like they weren't making baskets on their own. So as much as I can be annoyed that Nebraska missed some bunnies last night, it's not like Michigan actually punished them in the paint. They punished them at the free throw line.
Okay, so would you like to guess? So they made the layup on the what Hoiberg should have had a charge there with 1:07 to go in the game. Would you like to guess their last made free throw or made a field goal before that?
Let's say 6:27.
Pretty close. 5:32.
Yeah. It's pathetic. How many points were scored?
And then, by the way, before that, 11:08.
Yeah.
So they basically separated made shots by 5 minutes in the second half,
so
or like 11, 5, and 1.
And they're like, oh, the officials didn't decide this game. Well, yeah, the players play it. But the officials put Michigan at the line 23 times, right or wrong. They allowed for that last basket, right or wrong. And Michigan, in a game in which it should be about the field goals you make on the court in the run of play, made 2 in the last 11.
Actually,
2 in the last what?
3 in the last 10.
Yeah.
Three field goals in the last 10 minutes
compared to what they probably got. Let's see, 14.
I'm gonna try and count their points.
14 of their free throws came in that stretch.
11, it appears. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
So there you have it.
There you go. 12 made free throws and 3 made baskets in the last 10 minutes.
In that stretch, Price Sanford went 1 or 2 from the line for Nebraska.
And the Michigan so they got,
actually, I don't know, he might have had that earlier.
One of them was a 3, one of them was a cheddar layup, and then the other one was, so we're talking about 7 points from the field in the last 10 minutes, and we're talking about 12 points from the free throw.
Yeah. In a 3-point game.
Now the argument and the rub is this. Like, Nebraska's not going to be that undermanned, like when they're in really important games going forward. Like in theory, they'll have Mast and Frager back on Sunday, and then, but whatever it looks like for the NCAA tournament.
I hope they quarantine Mast away from everybody else.
Yeah, seriously.
That was the thing that, like,
he looked
horrific. I
horrific.
heard that, it's like, just keep him away from everyone.
Did you see him? He was there. He
translucent.
Yeah. He looked like he was like actively crapping his pants.
Yeah, there was people that were like, "Oh man, you got to play 3." And it's like, nope, nope.
Like I can't remember whose video it was, but like, and some of it is just how he is and how like his presence, but like it looked like he had just got done from a nice long stay on the potty, or over several hours.
Could be.
That's all. But what I was going to say is this, like, you're going to be in situations where these games are quote unquote up to officials and they get choppy late. Nebraska, like, maybe there is a slight, ever so slight, like kind of Achilles heel in there. Now, with that being said, Frager and Mast are probably just anecdotally like your two most likely guys to get to the free throw line. But this is not a team that is going to earn its, like I could check their numbers right now. They're not going to get there a whole lot just because of their style of play. I'm not saying that they're soft, because they're certainly not, but like they're not going to get there a whole lot because of what they lack from a physical standpoint.
But that also doesn't
And
mean
they have
that-
just guys who aren't interested and shouldn't be interested in playing in the paint.
And I can totally accept and understand that. That is not how Michigan got to the free throw line. They got to the free throw line
yes,
on rebounding fouls, on loose ball fouls. Meanwhile, they literally dove on barricade twice in that game, and there was no call.
Yeah.
So it's like this is where the frustration comes in. Again, Nebraska had every opportunity to win that game. They didn't. It plays out differently if you have Rink Mast in the middle grabbing some of these rebounds. You're not going to be able to do some of that to him. And yet at the same time, Cale Jacobson was fantastic last night.
it was unbelievable.
I mean,
that
Cale
pivot, that
Jacobson-
pivot high off the glass. Yeah, that was good stuff.
That and the
Those were the
barricade
goods.
fadeaway from a couple of games ago. Like, I don't know which one had the lower probability in my mind
Yeah,
of being made. They both splash them.
By the way, Nebraska 340th in the country in free throw rate, basically. Yeah. So like the hypothesis was true. They just don't get to the line a whole lot.
And I totally get there's going to be disparity in that regard.
And they are not a team that crashes the offensive boards either.
Mm-hmm.
So like once again, you're limiting your potential for like aggressive plays where you get calls that go against the other team. That's all. Now, with that being said, and we'll take a break in just a couple minutes because there's like 45 more angles that we have to talk about for Nebraska basketball last night. Who lost, by the way, for the first time? I don't know.
Yeah, congrats to those. Jake Sorensen. Should we call him up this morning?
That's right. We should call Jake and say, "Are you happy now?"
That's not what I meant.
He'll say no, but secretly he'll think yes. I think they finally got that loss out of their way, and now
that's what they needed.
They can move on. Predictably. And this is what happens, like Michigan is an analytical darling at this point. As we discussed last night over text, Schaefer, I'm not sure that I 100% see that.
I I think they're the best team in the Big Ten,
especially on the defensive end. We could talk about that too. Nebraska did go up in Ken Palm last night. They went, I think it was 11. They went up to 10. They went up to 8th on defense, and I think they stayed put about 22nd on offense. So it's a top 10 defense in the country right now. And the more offensive juggernauts that you're going to play in, specifically in the next week and a half, they literally play the number one adjusted efficiency offense in the country on Sunday. If you do a nice job on them defensively, which I fully expect Nebraska will, that's going to keep coming up and up and up. Right. Like, it wouldn't surprise me by the end of the week if Nebraska had a top 5 adjusted efficiency defense. And that is amazing with the personnel they have. Yep. I mean, amazing.
That is
I thought
effort over athleticism.
So let's talk about this next. I thought this team was going to be like, we're probably going to have to outscore you, 86 to 82. Mm-hmm. And it obviously isn't. So Nate Lenzer and all the personnel and all the people involved deserve all the credit in the world. It's an excellent defensive team. We'll take a break. Of course, want to hear from you guys as well. Whichever way you'd like to get in touch with the show, we can get to some comments too. We're back after this on 1620 The Zone. We will talk plenty about the Big Ten football schedule, which is challenging. But did you also see? So the conference sent out the release yesterday with the schedule, and with the release, by the way, now there's a bunch of different lists that you could potentially be on for this, and obviously each of the individual schools will send out their schedule, and it's very easily accessible online and all these different things. But the correspondence that I officially received from the Big Ten yesterday featured a 4-paragraph. The conference announced their schedule today, and so I'll read it to you. The conference will enter the 2026 campaign on the strength of 3 consecutive college football playoff championships, most recently Indiana's first ever title, to conclude a historic 16-0 season last week in Miami. The Big Ten kicks off conference play Saturday, September 19th, with 2 games, while the remaining 14 teams begin their league schedules on Saturday, September 26th. The schedule is highlighted by Ohio State and Indiana, and then they do a whole bunch of new coach things. Bob Chesney's first game, Kyle Whittingham's first game. God, I forgot almost that happened. And then Pat Fitzgerald's first game and Matt Campbell's first game and all those different things. And they didn't link to the schedule at all. And then they snuck in there this is what I want to talk about for 3 minutes. Football season in conference will kick off at the 2026 Big Ten Football Media Days, presented by Discover, from July 28th to 30th at Hilton Chicago on Michigan Ave, overlooking Grant Park in Lake Michigan. Can you believe it? The Big Ten has ditched Vegas for good old home Chicago.
Wasn't Vegas just a 1-year thing? Or
I kind of felt like it was going to be out there, and then they were going to do it in LA, or they were going to, they were going to kind of.
LA was definitely a conversation.
I felt like the Big Ten was pointed in that direction. Yeah. That doesn't mean they have to be there and do everything there every year, but I felt like it was kind of, now that this door is open, why don't we walk through it, or at least take a step in?
It kind of reminds me of when they put the Big Ten tournament in DC one year, just as hey, Maryland and Rutgers are in this thing now.
That was weird.
And then everyone was like, don't do that again. And they didn't do it again.
Remember that one year they put it at Madison Square Garden?
Yeah.
That was one of the dumbest things possible.
It was basically don't do that again. And they didn't do it again.
Let's see. Do we have I remember they did this, right? The Big Ten, the future Big Ten tournament sites.
I believe so.
So we're in Chicago this year, Indy next year, and Vegas in 28.
Okay.
The women's tournament is Indy this year. I always felt like they did it at the same.
They have done it at the same venue in the past.
Gosh, maybe Google AI is messing me up here. Big Ten women's basketball future sites. Okay, so the men and the women. All right, so Google AI did screw me on that one. Apologies. Here's officially from the Big Ten site. Both of the tournaments this year are in Indy. Nope. Both of the tournaments.
They're in Chicago.
Okay. I forgot that it was 2026 now. Restart. The 2026 Big Ten men's basketball tournament is in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
That is official. Mark that away. The Big Ten women's basketball tournament is in Indy this year. So they're not at the same site. 27, the men are in Indy. 28, the men are in Vegas. 27, the women are in Vegas. And 28, the women are in Detroit.
Okay.
Little Caesars
But they
Arena.
used to do it.
So
where they would
Google
be in the
AI
same
actually
location.
didn't screws me. Yeah, I know.
Not all the time, but some of the time.
Yeah, it's sort of odd. But maybe the Big Ten isn't quite as westward facing as I thought it was going to be.
They already got them in the fold. They're done with it.
I kind of just thought we were all going to start migrating that way, like the old West.
Don't you feel like they just every couple years of being elsewhere, they bring it back to Chicago to remind you that Chicago is the Big Ten city.
Yeah.
Chicago.
Which is correct, by the way.
Yeah,
I mean like as much as we like to make fun of Chicago, and I certainly do, like that is the right place for stuff to be at.
Are we just gonna send young Matt to Chicago for the for Big Ten Media Days?
Great idea. Big Ten Media Days. He could stay at home.
Yeah, he can sleep in his own bed.
Although he wouldn't. Maybe he would want to stay at the Hilton Chicago, home of the fugitive.
Brunson, BC have probably already made this joke multiple times. If I know them,
definitely. Last time I did a Big Ten Media Days at
screaming
the
about
Hilton
the sample.
Chicago, I was talking about the fugitive a lot.
If
That's
I
where
recall-
Radio Row is in the dungeon.
yeah, that one I liked better than McCormick.
I like
McCormick's setup is probably better for you.
I like the space of McCormick.
Well, I don't know why I'm saying for you. I'm a radio guy now.
True.
So,
People forget.
but yeah, I mean, I did not particularly care for McCormick because you're just so far removed from everything.
Yeah, you
Like
got to take
that-
an Uber downtown.
That stinks.
That's where DePaul plays basketball now, hilariously.
McCormick?
Basically, yeah.
Wow.
It's right connected to it.
Not for
So
me.
I get the whole McCormick Place
So they've done
experience last
McCormick,
January.
they've done the Chicago Hilton, they've done one other one down there, and I can't remember which.
There's another Chicago hotel. I know they did a basketball media day at the one, like at the hotel at O'Hare,
Okay. That actually would make
which
a
is
ton of sense.
pretty convenient.
Yeah.
Right. Because the problem of getting Chicago is actually like getting to Chicago from the various airports.
I think we send Matt to Big Ten Media Days. That's my vote.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm down. And then he can get to experience Chicago in a very tourist way.
Yeah.
We can make him like
Go to the Bean and take a picture.
We can make him go to Millennium Park. We can make him go to Navy
Matt's
Pier.
checklist.
Just make him do vlogs.
He has to hold a 1620 the zone sign at these locations in Chicago.
That is an interesting plan.
I love it.
I make Matt be a tourist in his own hometown.
I love it.
Which I'm sure he probably doesn't go to that area of town often when he's home. So there's an actual element of reality to this. But I love the idea.
He lives up in the Evanston area. Is that?
I believe it's
Yeah,
up in that range. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I'm not familiar with the geographical layout of Chicago. I
call
don't know
it-
where Skokie is.
Just call it the Chicagoland area and watch him get mad about it. And you include
That's what I
Gary,
usually do.
Indiana, where the Bears will play.
People forget the Northwest
Bears.
Indiana Bears. Michael Severe writes in on YouTube. Last week, Connor didn't know what day it is. This week, he doesn't know the year. 5-hour energy, buddy. Nope, I think that's just my own stupidity.
So next week, will you know what planet you're on?
Unlikely.
What would you not know next week? Can we make predictions now?
Go ahead. Yeah, it's hard for me to tell.
Well, yeah, you could also swing the results. Joey, do you have any thoughts on what Happer may not know next week?
What will I
A
forget?
commonly known thing that he just wouldn't have any idea.
He's not gonna have an idea of what the weather is at the moment.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean,
Possibly.
we've talked about my hyper awareness of the weather and Schaefer's lack of awareness for the weather. So that would be quite the change.
I wonder if you'll forget which hour of the show we're in. You'll jump
Good
into
one.
you'll be telling us that a guest is coming on,
Good one.
but it's only the 7 o'clock
That's
hour. And
that's
not
happened
the 8
before
o'clock.
though. That's happened last week.
that
Okay, well,
I mean, it's a common mistake. I like that prediction though.
I thought that you hadn't done that yet, but that commonly happens.
I don't know what time it is.
Yeah.
I don't know what day it is. Headley
just-
writes in,
You're just in
Connor,
the seat.
Connor will start speaking Latin next week.
Oh.
Latin.
Do you know any Latin?
I mean, I know a few words, obviously. From the 402, Connor will forget his own name. I've definitely introduced myself as not my name before. Not completely, but started to think, why was I almost going to call myself this?
I'm Charlie.
When you say so
Charlie
many,
Hopper.
and Michael knows this, when you say so many words into the microphone, there's a pretty good chance you're going to screw up.
Is there?
Just hopefully you do so at a lower rate than I do on a daily basis. All right, we'll take a break. We will be back. We'll talk about that schedule and tell you how right Joey Colbert was and a variety of other things coming up on 1620 The Zone. All right, welcome back. 7 o'clock hour. I got the right hour. Happer and Schaefer on 1620 The Zone and on 1620thezone.com. There we are. If you're watching along with us on YouTube. By the way, look at that. The new setup there. We're all a little bit closer. It's kind of like a Brady Bunch type of vibe now. I love it. I love it. I like it's less wasted space. So nice job. I think Nick was the original designer of this, and obviously Joey put his signature on it.
Gave me the little format, and I did my little craft to make things right.
So this is a Grimm original?
Yeah, this is a Nick Grimm joint.
Wow.
He is the director of video after all.
Famously with his vlogs.
Famously with his vlogs, of which he has many.
Yeah.
Only when
I
he goes.
definitely watched a few of them. Some to my
wait. There's more than the Vegas.
Yeah,
vlogs?
isn't it only when he goes to Vegas?
Yeah, like it's whenever the 2 or 3, whatever that he had going on out there.
So going to Vegas the 2 times.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, look, they counted.
They did.
And I watched them, and I wondered, why am I watching this?
I did a video once. I think I did a Vegas, like might have done like some sort of a Vegas vlog for Nick. And then I did a last year at the Big East tournament, I did a Madison Square Garden tour, which
that was pretty cool.
There was like 8 people who enjoyed it, so I felt like it was worth it.
Yeah.
Shout out to video.
Had me reminisce
Shout out
those
to
times in New York going on that MSG tour.
And then later that night, after I did the video vlog, Creighton nearly lost to DePaul, and I had to try to scramble and find out how to get back to Omaha and not stay there all weekend. And then Stephen Ashworth made a really long shot, and then they didn't lose to DePaul. And then they beat UConn the next day. Those were different times. Creighton does play UConn, by the way, on Saturday. But, of course, they are coming off of a brutal loss last night, which we could talk about more in depth as we go on throughout the show today. But we have a Big Ten schedule, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Big Ten overlords. You have finally given us something to talk about.
Thank goodness.
I suppose it makes sense that they didn't put out a schedule, given that the conference, now I'm going to do a little bit of just some light conference honking here. Given that the conference, actually has success in the college football playoff, and they probably, yeah, thank you. And they probably didn't want to divert attention away from that. So maybe this is all in the plan for the Big Ten.
Could be. It very well could be. I just looking at the language of it and sort of the schedule put together, the release where you put out there the Indiana Ohio State game. Putting that out as kind of your one preview to it.
I was surprised there wasn't more leaks. Where were the leaks?
Oregon seemed to have, there's somebody from Oregon that put it all out. I mean, Husker Online had everything ready to go mere seconds before it was released.
They must have enacted some serious embargo rules.
Yeah.
If you put this out and if we find out you did it, we will kill you. Or something like that.
Well, apparently yesterday,
Tony Petiti.
Yesterday during Unsportsmanlike Conduct, it happened during the Steve Sipple interview segment, and he had to dip out to put out the schedule release.
He had to put, but
on his.
That was before the schedule actually got released, so they were ready to release their own clickable link by the time the schedule was released. That is embargoed information.
Tony Petiti
famously
much tougher on schedule leakers than he is on sign stealers.
That is true. Poll question. Which is Tony Petiti harder on, sign stealers or schedule leakers? There you go. We haven't had a poll question in a while.
And I almost wonder if it comes from the Nebraska side of it, where it's like the schools get told by the conference, hey, if your people are doing this, it's on you.
Yeah.
And so then, and I don't know, I'm not part of
people around here don't want to get Nebraska in trouble.
Right.
That's for sure.
And so then everyone plays nights, and we waited. I really don't understand the necessity of putting this at 4:00 or 4:30 in the afternoon. I don't understand why you can't just put all the schedules up right away and we have to do a team by team thing. All of this is dumb.
Did they
the
do a
production
TV
value
show?
it is bad.
Did they do a TV show?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even see it.
Yeah, they did.
They
an
don't
hour-long
promote
show.
anything on. Like there's the BTN is so bad at what it does in terms of being a network, in terms of building any advanced buzz or doing anything or having anything at all to say. Like, it is such a horribly run operation that the schedule rollout every year it happens is a reflection of these people suck at everything that they do.
Yeah, I wish there was a little bit more energy for it, and
or that someone involved in the media
Promotion.
and would talk about this would know.
right.
Oh, hey, this comes out at this time, and like there's going to be a reason to tune in, or they could have coaches available to interview, or they could do things.
I'll say this, Schaefer. Like, I go back and forth on that sometimes, and don't worry, we're going to get to the schedule. But this is a mild sidetrack here that I'm willing to take. That is so baked into the Big Ten's DNA as a conference
to be a bland, just garbage content producing organization.
Correct.
That
Almost
fails to take advantage of opportunities over and over and over.
Almost
because they
to the
prefer
point,
to be a stodgy, boring iteration of itself.
Correct. Almost to the point where I appreciate it. Almost to the point where
the commitment to the bit.
Like they are who they are. They are thumb your nose up, like we're gonna
get your pinky out when you drink.
We're gonna put up our schedule and you guys will have to find it yourselves. And the SEC is like, let's do a parade. And I think we could get maybe Red Panda to perform, and we'll blow the whole thing out, and we'll have a bunch of dudes in overalls drinking beers and having no teeth and yelling about how they love the Tide and things like that. Like, it's a different world.
And people will watch and be entertained and say things like the pageantry of the SEC is
the
unmatched.
Big Ten is not here for your entertainment. The Big Ten is here to make money.
If you're going to be so low energy and that pathetic, just send an email out with all the schedules.
Which they did.
But just do that and don't have your show.
Don't add a 30-minute TV show
that you barely put any effort into anyway.
The Big Ten is unashamedly the Big Ten.
They win in spite of themselves. That's how I feel about them.
100%. And frankly, the SEC should have more of this reality in their lives. Like the Big Ten has the last 3 national championships because Indiana, Ohio State, and Michigan have won them, not because any position that the Big Ten put them in. And the sooner SEC fans understand that, the better off I think we all will be. But, different strokes for different folks. All right, so here is L schedule 2026. You start off, of course, as we knew, with Ohio, Bowling Green, and North Dakota. September 5, 12, and 9. You think so? You're calling your shot?
3-0 for Nebraska.
I don't know, Ohio.
Which game does Calandria have his most total touchdowns in of those 3?
Bowling Green.
Okay.
I don't know why I said that, but
you had 3 options. It was one of the options, and you didn't choose North Dakota. Then you were picking a MAC game, and Bowling Green's probably the second worst team on the schedule.
They all look the same to me. All of Ohio State, Bowling Green. Do all MAC teams look alike? Then this is where you get into the stuff that we learned yesterday. Opening up conference season at Michigan State. Remember, Nebraska has 5 road games and 4 home games this year. That was predicted, yes, by our own schedule maker, Joey Colbert.
I told you so.
Joey, take your victory lap. You don't have to be like the Big Ten and just say, oh, you could actually say, look at me, I'm the best. Yes. You are Mr. Schedules, Joey.
I'm schedule man.
Mr. Schedules.
I am schedule man.
All right. Then Nebraska has their Big Ten home opener with Maryland, crab cakes and football on October the 3rd. Then a week later, a home game with, who's this team here? Indiana. Why do they have a number 1 by them? What's that?
Is the one in front of their name, behind their name?
The one
is there 2 Indiana teams. It's a split squad game.
It almost looks like a ranking. It almost looks like some sort of like ranking. Anyway, number 1 Indiana, fresh off of the
Nick
national
Marsh and Josh Hoover and a whole new cast of characters.
Yeah, they're going to be still just as good. We'll talk about this in a minute, but like the Kurt Signetti train is coming to Lincoln, and I am excited about it. At Oregon a week later. Joey, didn't you also predict that Indiana and Oregon would be back to back?
Yes, but the other way around.
That's okay. We're counting it as a win for Joey.
And I think there was a bye week in between.
Well, you almost got it. You just mixed up the pieces a little bit.
I got the right month, so I'm going to take that victory lap.
I think you should.
And you said Illinois is never in. I know you're going to mention that later on in the schedule, but they never play in November, and I got that game.
You sure did. That is true. I would have figured that would have been the conference opener, like almost for sure. But it is not. That is November 7th. But after the road trip to Eugene, there is a merciful bye week, and then Halloween, Washington comes to Lincoln, at Illinois, at Rutgers, Ohio State at home on November 21st, and then short week at Iowa on Black Friday. There's not a lot of home games on there. Specifically, there's not a lot of home games. In fact, 2 after the Indiana game. 2 home games after October 11th, which is the day after the Indiana game. And one of them is against Ohio State, for the record. The other one is against Washington, who's always a pretty difficult team to play. He's a good, solid program. You're going to Oregon in that time frame as well, with separate road trips to Illinois and Rutgers back to back. Oh, and by the way, there will be a Friday game as well. I'm almost sure of it at this point.
So
that's the story.
All right. Like, looking at this, the Friday game could very well end up being Michigan State, September 25th.
That is one of the thoughts, one of the common thoughts as of right now. I always pinpoint Illinois just because it feels like.
Do they do Friday games in November?
I don't. Well,
they've done it. They've done it the last 2 seasons.
Okay.
For the Big
Check.
Ten.
I can go back and check 2025 and see what we look like.
So I mean, those would be your Friday options. I don't think that they would do it November 13th at Rutgers. That seems
seems a little late.
Too late for a Friday one. What if they did the Oregon game as a Friday?
I can't see that happening.
I mean, I can't either. You'd be taking one of your bigger TV marquee matchups and sticking it on a Friday, but you could put it on Fox, and then could be a big deal in that regard.
Fox doesn't get Oregon much because of their constraints of being on the West Coast. Playing Indiana and Oregon in a 6-day span, one of them being on the road on a Friday, would be pretty funny. It would be like funny, sad, painful. Whichever emotion
brutal.
you want to attach to it. But yeah, brutal is definitely the overarching one.
Look, I support it. Just
you
get it
support
in.
it?
Yeah. Let's see Oregon on the 16th, and Nebraska has a 6-day window to prepare for backup quarterback Dylan Raiola.
So for the record, that week, the Nebraska Oregon week, that is the Indiana Ohio State weekend, which will obviously be big noon. Because that's that will be
what a doubleheader for Fox.
That will probably be the second overall pick as far as weeks are concerned. They'll go to Michigan, Ohio State first, I'm sure, and then they'll pick Indiana, Ohio State. There's going to be other good games. Having another team that is sort of a national power is advantageous for CBS and NBC. They can actually maybe finally get some good games this year because of the scheduling process.
If Penn State had played out how they were supposed to, and then you have, Penn, and the other argument here is if USC had just been better than they've been the first 2 years too. I mean, you have some of those games that just haven't worked out in what you wanted. Of course, then there's Nebraska. If they could do anything,
not holding up their end of the bargain right
bringing a TV audience in as well. So yeah, I mean, Indiana's emergence and becoming something that people want to watch. I mean, that's become a team that is eminently watchable in the sport, whether it was to see them fall on their face, which never happened, or just like, I can't believe they keep doing this. I want to see how this plays.
It is sort of a full week that week. So you have Ohio State. This is the Nebraska, Oregon week. Ohio
Could
State,
this
Indiana.
actually happen? Are you talking yourself into
Well,
Oregon?
We'll have to come up with one more here. So Ohio State, Indiana is big noon, right? In theory. Penn State, Michigan is on the schedule. So that's either CBS or NBC night game. And depending on who gets the pick, here are your other options besides Nebraska, Oregon. Washington travels to Purdue.
Pass.
Northwestern travels to Michigan State.
Yep.
Pat Fitzgerald against
Yep.
Northwestern. Wisconsin at UCLA. And Rutgers at Maryland. We can toss that one aside.
Yeah, I think your obvious Michigan State Northwestern moves up there.
So they go into the big three, and then Nebraska gets kicked to the curb for Friday night.
Not kicked to the
I
curb.
can't see it
Nebraska
happening.
gets a solo
6 days
window.
after playing the national champions and getting beaten to a pulp. Sad.
A solo window on Friday night to have a national audience watch them play against a top 5 team.
In a 6-day
What
period,
an opportunity.
you play the national champs from 2025 and the national champs from 2026.
They're not going to win the title.
I mean, it would. It would fall in with the Big Ten narrative of different teams winning the national title every year.
That is true.
That's all. They'd be my lead contender in that category.
I'm writing off these other 3
because it ain't going to be Penn State. We know that.
Well, you're forgetting about Washington.
I am forgetting about Washington.
Or Luke Fickell bringing all that momentum from the end of the year and Wisconsin making a shocking run.
Now, this is a good idea from Chris on the text line. You guys should do a draft. Each of you is a network, and you pick the games for each week.
I like this.
That's not a bad idea.
Fun
now,
little bit.
if we wanted to do it true to form, like true to life, it's a little bit more confusing than that because they draft the week, and then there's certain things that they can't do because they have other things that they have to worry about. But we know Schaefer has a CBS shirt, so.
Yeah, I mean, I could
I don't know how
definitely
you feel
represent CBS.
I don't know how you feel about wearing it. I don't know if we want to.
I haven't burned all of my CBS stuff, so
would you be interested in representing CBS in the draft and maybe just tanking it and picking?
I could, as
games?
long as I'm legally protected from anything that they might view, unfavorably about.
Maybe I'll be CBS.
And I guess the other
You
thing
can
is
be Peacock. You love Peacock.
I might also need some backup against Peacock here in a little bit.
Remember,
I had liked Peacock up until yesterday. I don't have any problem.
They
with it,
actually do a really good job. Last night was bad.
real bad.
Last night was bad. Okay, so big picture schedule thing here, real quick. Like as you mentioned, Schaefer, we were sort of being facetious a little bit. What an opportunity. I mean, truly, that was my takeaway. I know, we're going to look at this and it looks grim. The schedule is very, very challenging for Nebraska this year. But mostly the point is there's not like a whole lot to feel good about just at this moment right now. To that, I always say, don't worry. We still have 8 months.
Yes.
There's a lot of time for people to convince themselves that things could potentially happen for this team. So with that being said, playing Indiana and Oregon and Ohio State and Iowa and like having those games on the schedule is so cool. Like I love, Nebraska plays the national champions. They have Kurt Signetti and his weird stares and eyebrows in their house next year on a perfect, like middle of this. It's not late season,
right?
Crap weather and anything like that. Like this will be a big day for Nebraska football, especially if they hold up their end of the bargain through the first 5 weeks of the season, which they very well could be 5-0 going into that Indiana game. Not to start this whole conversation again, but they very well could be 5-0, and we're looking at like a top 25. I mean, obviously, Nebraska probably be in the top 25 at that point if they end up doing that. And Indiana will very likely still be the number 1 team in the country because they don't schedule crap, So
there's your big noon opportunity in week 5.
Yeah, I think so. Depending on how the sort of schedule.
Well, Nebraska
breaks
has
down.
to hold up its end by getting to 5-0,
of course,
teams
which
as
is
well.
no guarantee.
What I like about it, and we do this a lot with basketball, or at least, the Nebraska fan base does this a lot with basketball when the schedule's released, and it's like, oh man, in the December games, you get this team, and then you have to play a top 10 team, and then
that's a tough stretch right there.
They get Michigan State, or a couple years ago when they made the tournament, it's like they have Purdue right off the bat in January. Like, that's not an easy way to get into. You got to play these teams at some point in time, and they're on your schedule.
Yep.
If you
We
view
don't
it in
need the
lens,
schedule fearmongers.
if you view it in the lens of Nebraska will have 3 opportunities to play top 10 teams and go get themselves a signature win for Matt Rule, whether you think they can do that or not is a different conversation. But it's the opportunity for them to prove that they have moved forward as a program. Like, this is what you want.
Absolutely.
Like, you want to be playing in these games. Like, you want
These are
to
barometer
be,
games.
You want to be the team that pulls the upset that shows like, hey, we have moved this thing forward. We can do this.
It's such a funny. We were talking about like the supreme alpha confidence that Nebraska basketball shows, and how they are shorthanded by 2 guys and they still take it to Michigan and they pick them apart and all these different things. They're just not scared whatsoever at all. And there's reason for that. There's a confidence behind them because of how well they play and they have results to go behind it. And there's not as much on Nebraska's side. But I would like to see Nebraska have a little bit more. And I'm not talking about, like, I am talking about Nebraska as a team, but I'm also talking about as a fan base too. I wish we would embrace big games more. We had a big discussion about this last year when they banged the Tennessee game of like, hey guys, I don't care about, like having a great experience at Memorial Stadium. All I want to do is see my team get to 6 wins so they can hopefully get 7, like that's soft in my opinion.
See, I don't care about the out of conference. So this is where we differ because I don't care as much about the out of conference.
The same thing applies to the conference thing. Like I would like, how come we can't get an Indiana conference schedule and play Maryland every week? And stuff like that.
They had it this last year. They went 7-5.
Exactly. By the way, Indiana's schedule next year, they do play Michigan and Ohio State in back-to-back weeks if you feel like you're getting jobbed there.
Well, don't they play Nebraska, Ohio State, and Michigan in back-to-back weeks? I mean, the way that Nebraska is going to take it to Kurt Zignetti's boys, they're going to be lucky that they even have a team to play Ohio State the next week.
That's right.
So
exactly
there's that.
But I think we're on the same page.
Yeah, this is always, like I said, it drove me nuts when Bill Moose was this whiny and how he felt like things are being tilted against them, and it just led this feeling in this fan base. You're in the conference. The teams are in the conference. You play these teams at some point in time. Like, go win games. Some of it just comes back to this. Like, there's always this sort of talk and conjecture about what these other teams are doing. Well, you know what they're doing? They're winning games. You talk about Iowa and how they never have to play anyone. Well, they win games when they do play people.
Yep.
And they win games when they don't play people. And they win games when they play you. So maybe instead of being worried about what their schedule is, maybe Nebraska needs to win some of these games and then could be in a position to.
They are themselves. They play games as if the other team and the circumstances don't matter very much, which is what you're trying to get to ultimately.
Would be great.
And I think we have a hint of what that looks like for Nebraska, but we still don't have the full picture yet. Let's take a break. I want to get your schedule thoughts as we continue on here. You meaning you can tweet at Happer and Schaefer on Twitter, email Connor, Mike, Joey at 1620thezone.com, or of course call or text 402-951-1620. We're back after this on 1620 The Zone. But first, football's biggest game is just around the corner. You could get in on all the action with Underdog right now in Nebraska. If you're not on Underdog yet, I don't know why you're not, but you are in luck, fortunately, because new customers score $75 in fantasy bonus entries when you make your first $5 fantasy entry. Playing on Underdog is oh so easy. Head to the app, make picks on if a player will go higher or lower in the game in stats like touchdowns, rushing yards, receptions, and more. Of course, you could do season long if you were in a little bit earlier on the game. If you get those right, you can win up to 5,000 times your cash. Plus, there's new promos dropping daily in the app leading up to the big game. So if you like making picks and if you like winning money, then Underdog is the best place to be for the big game. Check out any of the options on the board, of course, and there will be more popping up over the next week plus. What are you waiting for? Download the app today. Use promo code HAPPER1620 to score $75 in fantasy bonus entries when you play your first $5 on fantasy. That's promo code HAPPER1620. Underdog. Make picks, win money. Must be 19 plus and present in Nebraska. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/playing-good-terms_DFS_.html for details. Consider with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. Welcome back. Connor Happer, Mike Schaefer with you. Hap and Schaefer on 1620 The Zone, 1620thezone.com. We here at Happer and Schaefer invite you to get your bleep together with our 5K sweepstakes. It'll run through February 24th at 1620thezone.com. Get signed up there. You have a chance to help get your bleep together with $5,000. Once again, 1620thezone.com. Schaefer, we received a
See, and when you read that the first time, I was like, we're sponsoring a 5K to get people to get their bleep together for the new year, to get out there and run.
It'd
and
be a
feel
cheaper
healthier.
way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought initially, and I was like, oh no, it's a $5,000.
Just
Much better way to get people to get their bleep together.
Or you could choose to not as well, but of course we prefer that you do. We received a text in the previous segment that I'd like to read out loud and on air. It is from dear friend Mike Sauter.
Okay.
Mike Sauter and the part of the growing media contingent that is following Nebraska basketball to road games. Was in Ann Arbor last night. I assume many of the folks are taking like the same flights back and things like that. It's part of the reason we don't have a one of our guests today.
Yeah.
Lauren Michelson will be airborne while we're on the air here. But Sauter sends this text. Well, it's actually a tweet of a text of a tweet. So thank you, Sauter, for sending us your tweet. He says, I slept for about 2 hours. However, there is a Shake Shack at the St. Louis airport and it's open. Is there ever a bad time to get Shake Shack if you don't have one in the town or city that you live in? My answer was no, Mike, there is not.
Yeah, I don't think there's a bad time to do it. I
don't think we should be bounded by the rules of society that don't allow us to eat hamburgers at 7:00 in the morning.
Well, I think you can get a hamburger there, but Shake Shack also has a good breakfast.
Yeah, they do.
And so I enjoyed this good breakfast in the Vegas airport coming back from an extension of my trip out to watch Nebraska play UCLA.
Wonderful.
Swung by Vegas and spent a few days there. It was a good time.
I go to Shake Shack every time I go to Vegas, which is
Do you go to
often.
the one on the strip or do you go to
the one on the strip.
Okay. Nice.
It's great.
Yeah. We just we wandered in through the airport and found that and seemed like the best food option available.
Sat in there and just scarfed down a burger and then just continued to walk my little butt up and down the strip.
Scarf is basically how you eat Shake Shack.
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt about it.
You don't like sit there and politely take a bite here or there. I mean, you're just wolfing that thing down.
Absolutely. I don't enjoy it like at all from a like you should savor this standpoint. I just eat it and it tastes delicious. All right. I'm going to give now we both have thoughts on this, but I'm going to turn the floor over to Mike Schaefer. As we were talking about television in the last segment, as far as the football schedule is concerned, the Nebraska-Michigan basketball game was on television last night. It was broadcast by an NBC extension, Peacock. What did you think of the broadcast, Schaefer? Any good?
It was not, and I think the people involved should be fairly embarrassed that you had a top 5 matchup of teams. You elected to go with what basically amounted to being like a home broadcast between the choice of who your color analyst was, which again, former players can cover their previous team and it works out fine. Usually, though, the former players have somewhat of a personality, something to say,
or experience doing their job.
They aren't just walking into this from off the street, like this is a massive game for you, the sort of running joke of the network that's involved with getting the Big Ten stuff to begin with.
Right.
There's a barrier that people have to get over to even get your content. And so when you have this opportunity to televise the biggest game of the season to this point in the Big Ten, and this is how you do it with just horrendous broadcasting through and through from a technical side of things. Now, I didn't experience this, but I had more than enough people in my mentions.
Is it on mute?
Saying the audio was off, saying that the crowd noise was like there's
okay. So that
quiet.
There was a lot of people who were watching on Peacock at on the actual app when the game started who were saying, I cannot hear anything.
Yeah.
It straight up doesn't work. I watched it on the YouTube TV extension,
the NBC
Sports Network,
yeah.
and it worked the entire game. However, like you just said, the crowd noise was so bad. Like it was so, it felt like it felt like they had to turn everything up just to be able to hear it. It was so muted. And, I don't think it was a raucous environment last night.
It didn't look like it from photos and whatnot either.
But with that being said, I felt like that should have been felt a little bit more. And I'm always impressed by NBC's presentation as far as how vivid their colors are and stuff like that. Last night it was
dingy.
It was muted. Like the whole thing was just it really did seem like a BTN Plus broadcast last night.
It felt like a student production through and through, from the commentary to what it actually visually looked like to the technical issues that were involved. So all of that. And then here's the thing that absolutely drove me up a wall. And maybe this is just having too much expectations. Maybe this is just being conditioned by watching too many sports that are capable of doing this. But their complete and utter inability to have replays available of things that were happening throughout that game, whether they be calls, whether they be moments, whatever it was. And you've been part of actual broadcasts. I mean, I really haven't. Like, I've done radio stuff, but I've never done television. So some of it, you're at the mercy of what happens in the production truck and everything too, when you're on the broadcast. But like, have they never produced a basketball game before? Has anyone ever considered, hey, maybe before we go to break, we should take a look at this foul? Or maybe as we come out of break, we should take a look at this foul. Or maybe instead of having a sequence where we look at 5 made baskets that happened 4 minutes ago, we look at the foul that caused a stoppage in play, and we could see what would happen there. Or perhaps we would look at this close call and it wouldn't take us 3 minutes to get the replay of the review that's coming. All of these are possible if you're a real broadcast team and you're attempting to broadcast a top 5 basketball game that is happening on your network, which famously people have to pay to get. So you have to provide them a reason to want to experience the game with you instead of turning on the radio, where they would at least get some level of professionalism as they attempt to enjoy the experience that they are carving out for themselves. So congratulations to Peacock. You probably cost yourself multiple subscribers by just being horrible at what you do.
Nice rant. Give him one more. Give him one more.
No expletives, no drops.
I'm proud of you.
No dump buttons.
It was a nice crescendo there too. Good job. Now there was another Peacock game last night, and the other broadcast crew was good. In the game looked good. Now, unfortunately, I think what happened here is you're just at the mercy of the
fact that you're in Nebraska.
You're at the mercy of the schedule a little bit. Like the other game was Indiana Purdue. And,
sure, but you didn't.
But when you look
at what point do they look at this and they decide this is what we're going to do?
Probably a week or two out would be my guess.
So at that point, Nebraska's 16, 17-0, Michigan's 19-1 or 18-1.
I still feel like Indiana Purdue probably
or you aren't like, hey, we need better than Nick Stauskas on the call here. We need someone that can actually say sentences and provide analysis.
I have nothing against young Nick Stauskas, former Big Ten Player of the Year. People forget Nick Stauskas. He needs probably a little bit more experience.
Yeah, and then meanwhile, you have Paul Burmeister, who every time Michigan took a 3 when they were down 3 at the end of that game,
dodged a bullet,
was screaming about how it was about to be tied, and then it never went in. So he's like building him. He's edging on television.
Gross.
And doesn't get there.
They were like, they kept saying
it was embarrassingly
about to
bad.
Be tied, and then dodged the bullet like 100 different times.
It's like horrendous.
And to your point about just not making stuff clear, at the end of the game, when Nebraska was going through their last possession stuff, when they got the ball to Hoiberg in the corner the first time, I felt like they had called a foul, because the ref went in there with his hand up, and it was never made clear that Nebraska apparently had actually called a timeout at that
They
moment.
never said it.
They never said anything.
So
He's like, oh, I guess we got a
the play stops, and it's like, so they called a foul? They called it someone who was out of bounds?
Why are they going to a huddle here? So I was like, what's going on? And then, and I probably said that to myself a lot throughout the game. What is actually happening here.
So bad in a top 5 matchup on your network.
Horse crap call.
Unbelievable that you went into this with, we're going to put a guy who's super green as a color analyst, who also happens to play for the team that's playing. So first
Didn't
of all,
help.
that in itself, like, he's not professional at this point. And we're going to put him in this spot where it's a really big game. And we're going to surround him with a horrendous broadcast in itself.
Although I will say I appreciate the commentary, the analysis on Nebraska in the first half, which was just they were just like cackling at Bryce Sanford and Jamarcus Lawrence the entire time, which I actually thought was pretty good. I'll give it to him.
Well, I mean,
they're just like, oh my god, what is wrong with
I
these
think that's
guys?
part of being part of NBC Sports. You got to do the Chris Collinsworth cackle at some point in a broadcast, but yeah, it just
Patrick really threw that one.
More than Stauskas, more than the picture of it, the inability to show replays of things that are happening that you want to see. Like, we never got another look at the foul, like the foul on the 3-pointer.
Oh, yeah.
We barely got looks at the potential foul, or uncalled charge at the end of it, or block if you thought that it was a block. I mean, it just like amazes me how bad the production was on this.
Yeah.
And it really shouldn't.
And once again, to be fair to NBC, like, I've really been quite impressed. Yeah. I really have been. Like,
I have not had an issue with Peacock until
I think they have they have a good assortment of talent. Like, I think it looks good. I think they do a nice job. They make the games feel big, like all that stuff. And for whatever reason, you just got the bottom of the barrel last night. Some of that could be.
It's like you got Peacock Plus College Edition.
Yeah, I'm not sure. And of course, it's the biggest game for Nebraska all year long to this point. So, and probably one of the biggest games for Michigan all year long.
It's going to be the biggest game for their network.
For Peacock in general,
for basketball.
I don't know. I don't know. They get some okay games.
You think they're going to get better than a top 5 matchup that featured an undefeated team and a 19-1 team?
Oh, okay. Yeah. But probably not.
Like, yeah. I mean,
I thought you were meaning like Michigan, Nebraska.
No.
Yeah.
Not in like what the names of the team
or
are,
what it's,
but in the general actual sense of this is the season, this is how it's playing out, and these are two heavyweights. Like, the first half of that game showed you an incredible matchup of basketball, and it's being produced by morons. It deserved better. It really did.
Yeah, it's tough. It was tough last night. All right. We'll take a break. Let's hit the rant gong for Schaefer one more time. Nice job. We appreciate that. We will be back with the headlines after this on 1620 The Zone.
All right, so like two more things here on the broadcast. So we got a tweet from Scott on Twitter at Happer and Schaefer. He says, "Is it possible that Stauskas was on due to the flight situation, like with the weather around the country, possibly grab the best local guy that they can?" I suppose that's possible. I got the I don't know when they got their assignments and stuff like that. I got the we got the notes with the broadcasters in it on Tuesday morning or Tuesday afternoon for Nebraska. Is it possible he wasn't the original guy that was supposed to be on there? Yes, it is possible. It is possible. So we should probably point that out. The other thing that we should point out that we failed to point out somehow in the previous segment regarding the broadcast last night.
I'll own that. That
Was
was my own peacock moment.
was the incorrect identification of multiple Nebraska basketball players.
Because again, it felt like a home broadcast put together by a college production team. Hey, it's Rink Mass. No, that's Leo Curtis.
There's a look at Rink
You know how you have
Mass.
a media guide right in front of you? Could you look at that and maybe determine this guy isn't that guy by just looking at their faces?
They have pictures.
I know that they're tall.
Yeah, they give out broadcast rosters with pictures on
I know
them.
that they're tall white men that come from another country, but they don't all look the same and they aren't all the same.
They were probably really, I mean, I bet Paul Burmeister was probably like really confused when the person who they showed as Rink Mast entered the game. And then he was like, "Oh, look at this guy. He's from Iceland. He's doing a bunch of jump hooks."
Are the monitors so small that when they're looking at their monitor to watch the production of what's being shown on the television that they couldn't have saw that it wasn't Rink Mass?
I don't know. I don't know their circumstances. And I got to be honest with you. I tend to be very, very lenient to broadcasters and broadcasts because I know how difficult it is. But that was not an enjoyable product last night.
Look, I'm not over here trying to murder them unfairly. It's the
You're murdering them just fairly. I think.
I don't know that anything that I said would be unfair relative to what the quality of the broadcast was,
Fair
especially
murder.
when positioned against what the game was.
Mike Schaefer here for fair murder.
And, well, yes, I guess. I mean, I'm not going to dispute that I am not murdering them, but I feel like it is within the justification of doing so. Justified murder.
We will talk more about Nebraska basketball, including this question from the 402 from Mike. Hey, Connor, if Rink Mast wasn't sick with the flu, does Nebraska win easily? We'll talk about that, and then the big picture, obviously, for them, and we'll get with Sam McEwen from the World Herald at the bottom of the 8 o'clock hour. But first, Joey's got the headlines. Joey, welcome back to the stream. Look at our
I'm
Brady
back.
bunch in the middle. Fantastic. And he's got a graphic for it. Joe headlines. This looks wonderful. All right, what do we got today?
First headline, it's in Kenya. Kenya activist breaks world record by hugging tree for 72 hours.
One of those headlines where you probably get a lot of the story.
I don't know that there's a whole lot to be found there. Let's go to the next one.
I agree.
Okay, second one's out in Germany. Trouserless trespasser found asleep in German retirement home. Turns out to be a U.S. soldier.
Yep, we're clicking.
Yeah, I think you go with that one. Yeah.
Okay, so a retirement home. So a retirement home in this army garrison town got quite the kick in the pants over the weekend. A drunk American soldier who wasn't wearing any. The unidentified soldier was found sleeping in an unoccupied room Sunday by an employee who had been delivering breakfast to residents
Of a nursing home?
of a retirement home.
Okay.
So investigators described the soldier as heavily intoxicated and wearing only a sports jersey and underwear. Several local media outlets reported the soldier couldn't say how he ended up at the retirement home, according to authorities, who said he may have entered the facility during a shift change.
Probably.
So the incident drew widespread attention across the U.S. Army Garrison Bavaria community, with many members sharing the story on social media. The garrison referred questions about the unit and identity of the soldier to the 173rd Airborne Brigade.
At the same time, Joey, I don't know, like, if it's the middle of the night and a soldier, a man in army garb walks into the door, he probably had the appearance of being under the influence. at that point in time. But like, what do you do about that? Especially,
Was he in the garb or was he in the sports jersey and the underpants?
oh, that's true. Yeah, I guess it's just random that he turned out to be a soldier in this
Yeah.
situation.
It seems that way.
But do you stop him? You know, I don't know what the
Depends on the
nursing
jersey.
home-
Do they identify what jersey he was wearing?
Yeah,
No, there was no identification
What's
on the
your best
jersey he was
guess?
wearing.
Vince Carter, like the purple Raptors jersey.
I like that we were both going NBA because I was going to say Carmelo Anthony in the baby blue Denver Nuggets jersey.
Why did both of those come?
Probably an Amon Ross St. Brown
idea.
jersey.
An Amon-Ra St. Brown jersey. That's
We had an
funny.
incident. There was an incident at an airport involving a person wearing an Amon Ross St. Brown jerseys, and it's in Germany. So I thought
Okay.
there might be some Lions fans
I-
over there.
I did not see any photographic evidence of this. They just had the words in the story, but I would have really loved to see which uniform or jersey
Yeah.
he was wearing, not uniform. He
What-
should have had a uniform.
What
on.
would be the most surprising sport? We both went basketball.
baseball?
But like if he's wearing like the actual baseball button up,
yeah.
and it's like a Tony Gwynn.
But those are cool. Like you got to come up with a really deep cut jersey or something like that, like something from the 2005
JD
Chicago
Drew.
White Sox.
I would say baseball.
Jermaine
Yeah,
Dye.
that-
You want him in a
that would
Jermaine
be-
Dye
in
jersey?
a Jermaine Dye 05 White
Of
Sox
Scott
jersey.
Podsednik.
Scott Podsednik. Yeah.
Where's
Yeah.
Chicago from us today.
Get Paul Konerko. If he was wearing a Paul Konerko jersey and got kicked out of the
They had to
nursing
let him
home,
go.
yeah, I'd be like, that jersey's way too cool.
Yeah.
They got to get you out of here.
If you were in a Harold Baines right now, you'd be in trouble. But Paul
Oh.
Konerko?
Jim Tomey?
Yeah.
You showed up in a Jim
Which
Tomey
one of the
jersey?
teams though?
I'd say Cleveland, Jim Tomey.
All right.
Hitting absolute bombs. All right. Those are the headlines. Joey, it's appreciated as always. We will come back the 8:00 hour. We are halfway home. Don't forget, Sam McEwen will join us at the bottom of the hour. Plenty to talk about with him and still plenty to get to from Nebraska ball and more coming up on 1620 The Zone. Variety of different online contests going on right now at 1620thezone.com, including Journey, George Thorogood and the Destroyers with Marshall Tucker Band. Can't you see? Chris Stapleton in Lincoln for the All-American Road Show. All of those, you can potentially win tickets on online contests. So it's very easy. Just head over to our website, 1620thezone.com. Here's a tweet from Jeffy Smack on Twitter at Connor Happer. For anyone curious if guys really can just sit around naming sports figures to have a good time all the time, all they have to do was listen to the last segment. Oh boy, that was only the tip of the iceberg. Well, and now Schaefer has gone down the rabbit hole of a Vince Carter game that he went to when he was, well, this is like 15 years ago at this point.
2009, yeah.
And then I incorrectly estimated when Vince Carter's NBA career ended by like 7 years.
Yeah. Oh, not just like 2 years.
Vince Carter played in the NBA until 2020.
He was 43 when he retired.
I remember him being old, but I just thought that timeline was moved up quite significantly. I guess during the break that his last year in the NBA was like 2013.
That's why there's that meme of him with the caption saying "There's one more in me" or whatever it was.
He's a time traveler.
Yeah, he is.
So shout out to Vince Carter, who I think it's the first time he's ever got a shout out on this.
Yeah, no, I don't think he'd ever been shouted out
on this show. We will answer this question from Josh on the YouTube chat. Is Creighton now the worst team in the Big East? They're not, but it didn't look good last night. A little bit later on in the show, we'll be joined by Sam McEwen in just a little bit. But let's go bigger picture here with the basketball from last night. All right, so I see the takeaway from most people, and it is, I am even further convinced today that Nebraska is enter whatever you feel like their ceiling is from a
top 40 team.
From an if that was your parameter before, hopefully you've
narrowed
it down a little bit at this point. But I do want to say this, as I think I could speak for both of us, both longtime believers in Nebraska ball. When were you convinced
with this team?
Yes. That not just that they were good, but they were like good in the top, 8, 10, 12 of the country.
So famously, there's at least audio out there that exists of me saying I thought this was a tournament team. I'm up on the whiteboard over here saying that this is a tournament team.
Now, that doesn't qualify.
Yeah, no, I thought they were going to be good. So what I'm trying to get at is that
you went in with a little bit of a higher.
So I was probably up on it more than others. Like the specific instance of when it really was, okay, these guys are legit, for me was probably the dismantling of Wisconsin, like the way they sort of did that. And at that point, like they had already, and if you look back now, their best win in the non-conference, and it continues to get better, is New Mexico. And they took it to New Mexico. Like they just absolutely took it to them in that Kansas City Classic game or whatever. And so it was probably the Wisconsin game, because that was coming off of, they had just beaten Creighton.
Mm-hmm.
And then you knew coming in, it's like, okay, what is the energy going to be? What's this going to look like? And they just demolished them.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they follow that up with Illinois. And at that point, I'm like, I'm 100% in. It's like, that's a tournament team.
So, like, I think that's where it changed for me, because you get your bunny ears up a little bit when they absolutely smacked Creighton the way they did, and when they absolutely smacked Wisconsin the way they did. But when they went on the road and beat Illinois and looked the same, doing it, it just I felt this sort of calm with this team. And so when they did that, I felt like they could do just about anything this year. Now, I didn't know or think that the win streak would continue for another several more weeks after that, but I was pretty convinced at that point. I was like, oh, we got to watch out. This is like a top 15 team in the country. And so I say all that is to say this, like, I feel weird having the conversation about how the loss to Michigan last night somehow further like legitimized Nebraska, because I always felt like they were, I felt like they were legit for a long time, but I suppose it is just further proof for the doubters who don't really matter anyway, but are disappearing rapidly,
Yeah.
further and further by the day.
Well, and I think again, it all comes. The problem with this conversation is that it becomes a question of, well, did you doubt that they were good? And I don't know that people were doubting that they were good. I think that they were doubting that they could hang with a team like Michigan.
Yeah.
And they did it without 2 players on the road with one less day of rest, yada, yada, yada. They had the lead. They had the opportunity to win the game, all of that. So I think they proved unequivocally that they can play with great teams, which I think we both felt like coming in. One, the 10.5 points before they even knew that Rink Mass was sick.
We never made a prediction yesterday, but I think we both mentioned offhand, like, I kind of feel like Nebraska might go win. You know? So
it was like it's one of those where we come at it a little bit differently. I think for some people, it's okay. They're obviously good enough to be a tournament team, but are they good enough to really be in the conversation? I think the answer is yes.
Yeah, I do.
A lot of things have to happen to get here, but it would be really hard for me to listen to an argument from someone to say that, Nebraska couldn't win a region in the NCAA tournament with their setup as their team, right?
God, no. Now, once again,
that doesn't mean they will. I want to be very clear.
So
about
that's what we have to say. The tournament is such a different thing. The tournament and then what category of teams you're in the regular season is, oftentimes it sort of ends up working out from a generic standpoint. Like, you have this group of 8 teams and 6 of them are in the Sweet 16 or like whatever it might be. So you have that, but it doesn't guarantee you anything in the NCAA tournament. I don't think, like anyone in this sport in particular, in that tournament in particular, nobody has a big enough margin for error to where you could be like, oh yeah, they're pretty much like guaranteed to be in the second. They're just guaranteed to be in the second weekend. Nobody is above with this group of teams.
In this era of basketball,
the 1s and 2s, you could go down to 7s and 8s pretty easy. Now 15s and 16s is hard, but 7s and 8s, those are back into the top 25 type of teams. You can lose on the right day at the right time. So I feel like people struggle with this because a lot of the conversation surrounding Nebraska from a national standpoint is like, they might not be end up in the Final Four.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, they might not end up in the Final Four because the NCAA tournament is the most random thing in
There's
sports
going to be a
that we
parade
have.
for them in Lincoln if they make the Sweet 16.
Right. And then there's that as far as the expectations are concerned as well. But like the general takeaway is that every game, especially this week with Michigan and Illinois, there is a new subset of college basketball honks that watch them. And anytime you watch them, all you got to do is flip on the television for like a segment of a game or a half of a game and say, and your takeaway will be, oh my God, I'm impressed. They maximize everything that they have. They execute relentlessly. They are so tough. I think, people give labels of teams and they call them tough and they automatically bring the connotation of physicality. And I don't know that that's Nebraska's like most outstanding quality about them. Not that they're not that they're
They definitely don't shy away from it.
But their toughness comes from their mental toughness.
Yes.
And that is the thing that carries through every single game for them. And it's so impressive and it's impossible to not see.
Yeah, what I like about it is that this team at any given point can showcase something that whatever it is that people like about basketball, and everybody comes to the sport differently. And some people like the flow and the pace of the game, and some people love the aesthetic of a really well-designed, play or a really beautiful looking jump shot. Like they have all of this.
Yeah.
And then there's the people that love the defense and the basketball IQ, and they have that. And then there's the people who just love all of the small things that go along with it, or want the personalities or the people to involve to reflect people that they want to root for. They have that. Like there's very little they don't have. The one thing that they may lack that only Frager really has for this team is the ability to throw down a top 10 dunk. And he's done it.
Yeah.
And he can do it.
Play. We're talking about like above the rim playmaking.
Right.
Yes.
And so that is like the one area that maybe, depending on what it is, and there's other things that people like basketball for, but I think I've largely touched on the things that bring people into the game. They are an aesthetically pleasing team to watch.
Yeah.
They're a lot of fun to watch.
It oftentimes feels like they're moving the ball and away from the ball. And I don't mean this, like, the way they move is almost sort of like without thought.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that as to say like it's robotic, but I think there has to be an element of roboticness when you're doing the things that you're trying to do and you're maximizing the way that the way
it's
that Nebraska
efficient is what you're saying.
Yeah.
There's no
wasted. Yeah.
Like I was complaining to you off air about something else entirely, about wasted movement with a certain player. And that's the opposite of what you see with, like, guys. Flow is the way that you would describe this offense. Like, it just has this seamless flow of these guys moving around, and it finishes with an unbelievable backdoor cut and pass, in which was set up by two things that happened nearly 10 seconds before we got to that moment. And that is what's really cool. Like, when offensive coordinators in football say basketball on grass, watching Nebraska's play design sometimes is what that means to me.
What did you think last night, Schaefer, about I mean, we talked about this briefly at the very beginning of the show, but just sort of the way, what do you take away from the way Michigan felt like they approached the game?
Well, I thought, to me, it felt like Michigan didn't come out with the sort of effort that you would expect in a game like this. It really felt like they thought they would run away with this right away.
That's sort
of
the way
And then they found
I felt.
themselves in a fight, and they responded well late in the first half. Responded fine in the second half, and like I said, got the police / official escort to the free throw line to win the game.
They chopped the game up. For sure.
So all of that, I could not get over how lazy they were. Like, when I talked about everything that I just did about the basketball IQ and the effort and all of that, what Michigan has in spade is physical gifts, and they are a very, very good basketball team. I don't want to take away from it. What was blowing me away, and what has to just make Dusty May sick, is how lazy they were on defense. They were lazy in rotation. They were lazy in getting out on guys. They were lazy in closing out things. They were lazy in getting through screens. In the second half, they weren't anymore. That stopped. But in the first half, Nebraska scored 50 points without Rink Mast and Braden Frager against the number 2 most efficient defense in the country.
And I'm telling you,
Michigan didn't take them serious.
It could have been more. I mean,
should have probably.
It could have been more. Now they made shots at a really high rate.
Right.
Ultimately, you're going to have to do that in order to get the point output they had. But like, they got every shot they wanted. And so I asked you that because I feel like this has been mildly consistent against Nebraska this year. Maybe it's the expectation of what you're getting from them athletically, or the fact that it's Nebraska. And I know people like to, take this idea and say, oh, well, we're not ranked this high because of this and this and this. I think that is almost working for them at this point.
Yeah.
Because what I saw from Michigan last night is them. Yes, I thought they were a little bit lazy and late on the defensive end, and probably a lot of that was just not having a really good plan for Nebraska's shooters, given what their personnel was going under screens and stuff like that. Like, I didn't get that. But I felt like offensively, especially in the first 8 or 10 minutes of the game, they settled. And for a team that has a physical advantage, as Michigan did last night, they were happy to live behind the 3-point line a little bit. And that is, and especially corner threes.
Mm-hmm.
Nebraska wants you to take corner threes. They're happy. They'll live with it. Anyone, take your corner threes. Now they'll still close out hard, but take your corner threes. And they did. So it was another example of a team that just fell, like they walked perfectly into the trap that Nebraska laid for them. And that would not at all be the first time this year that's happened.
Can I give you a theory as to why that happened?
It's worked for them a lot. Yeah.
I think teams look at Nebraska and they watch them on film and they think about what they are and they look at what they look like. And they think we are going to be the team that dictates the game to Nebraska.
Yeah.
And then they get into the game, as Michigan found out, and they played that game on Nebraska's terms. And what I mean by that is, you watch early in this game, Michigan's defenders on the perimeter are so focused on leaking out for the outlet to turn defense into offense.
They were trying
they're
to get
not
anything
finishing plays.
Yeah.
They weren't, so they're leaving guys just completely so they can get out because they're so focused on the other end because that's their style, right? Like they wanted to race Nebraska off the court. Initially, it seemed like the idea was instead of just being physically and wear them out, they think they can run because Nebraska doesn't have, they can't go as deep. They don't have as many players. Didn't work. And so then they got more physical and that wore everybody out to the point where the offense turned into,
they made a good adjustment in the second half.
And they're a good team. Like Michigan's legitimately a very, very good team. I was just stunned at like, this was the idea that it just, to me, it felt like whether they knew about rink mass situation or not, or they just thought that they could just do this to Nebraska. But Illinois did the same thing. I mean, Illinois' defense, and this is why that game on Sunday is going to be really difficult. They just got murdered on the backdoor cuts over and over, or would overextend and watch Price Stanford go right by them.
Mm-hmm.
And then it became apparent to him at some point in that game, the guy who hit all these threes can also put it on the deck and get to the rim. Maybe we can't chase the way that we are chasing.
They have plenty of guys who could just blow right by you for as little credit as they get, deservedly so athletically. Nebraska, they have a few guys who could really beat you off the jump.
It's funny because I don't think they get credit for how quick they are.
No.
Because again, they don't
short
waste the
area
movement.
burst.
It's the quick right to where they want to go, and they're also very fast at getting that off. The big thing with Sam Hoiberg is that for 3 years it felt like he would dribble in and then couldn't do anything with it, and now he somehow sped up his thought process of as he's on his way. It's like he knows I'm going up and under, I'm going around the side. I'm going
such
straight
a
up.
creative finisher. For his size, it's really unbelievable. So my question is this. Is this something that opponents do you think will adjust to in the remainder of the season now that either in the case of Illinois, you've seen them once already, and I'm not saying that opponents aren't taking them seriously. It's just you watch them and you see one thing and then you play them, I think, and you probably get another. So I wonder how much Nebraska will be able to take advantage of the sort of element of surprise as the year goes on. What they do will remain.
Yep.
Like that tracks, and that is portable to any opponent that Nebraska is going to play for the remainder of the year. The issue, not even an issue really. Like the thing that I'm wondering about is it going to take anybody by surprise anymore?
Doesn't feel like it.
Yeah.
I mean, it probably shouldn't be taking anybody by surprise at this point. Illinois is the first rematch that this team has had this year. So we're going to learn about how everybody adjusts and what Fred Hoiberg has for an encore, those three that it did. But also Frager didn't do anything in that game. So there's that element of it too. So if he's back and playing for Nebraska on Sunday.
I mean, their ceiling was significantly damaged by the fact they didn't have those two.
And so I'm curious what that's all going to look like. The X's and O's and how Brad Underwood chooses to play things and what Illinois' offense, and they're playing better basketball now than they probably were when Nebraska played them at that time. And so the thing that Nebraska has done really well, and Zach Shaw from the Michigan 24/7 site was on with us yesterday and kind of said Michigan's starting slow, and Nebraska did not start slow.
No,
and they didn't against Illinois, and so that'll be a big thing. I think the thing on Sunday, besides just getting back to being able to see this team play, which is like the highlight of every part of the week now for me, I cannot wait to see that environment. I know they didn't win at Michigan. It will not mute the response at all in Pinnacle Bank Arena. If anything, they will come back to a hero's cheer of sorts, if you would.
You could take a loss. One thing you cannot replicate is you know it when you see it. You can feel it. Does the fan base love the team? And I'm not talking about just because they wear Nebraska uniforms. Like, do they love the way they play? And because of the reasons that you mentioned before, there's nothing to not enjoy about it. I mean, no person who loves basketball could watch them and be like, yeah, I don't know, I'm not really a fan of this group. Like you can't. It's impossible.
The thing that's fun for the future
They're unlikable. I don't really like them.
is that this is a style that has to be easy to sell to people that are looking for somewhere to go play.
Completely.
Oh, I can go play my games in front of a packed arena. Oh, I can go play in a creative offense that does all of these things. Oh, there's this team that their identity is built around this. This describes me. I mean, it's not for everybody, but
This is
when you can
repeatable.
weed some people out, like this is a sellable product to basketball players.
Much like Indiana in football, this is repeatable.
Yeah.
This is repeatable. Let's take a break. Sam McEwen from the Omaha World Herald will join us on the other side. We'll touch on Nebraska ball and then, of course, that schedule for Husker football when we return on 1620 The Zone. All right, welcome back. Happer and Schaefer, 1620 The Zone, 1620thezone.com. We're joined now on the Prairie Flower Casino Zone hotline by our good friend Sam McEwen from the Omaha World Herald. Sam, good morning. How are you?
I'm pretty good. How are you guys doing?
We're pretty good. It was a tough night in a couple different ways of basketball last night. Did you learn anything last night specifically about Nebraska basketball that you didn't already think before?
You know, that lineup they started the game with might be something they could use as a curveball on occasion, because I thought Michigan was a little off kilter early. Obviously, over the course of 40 minutes, they missed Rink Mast, and you could tell they missed him late. You know, when they got a little worn down, and you know they didn't have as much rebounding inside. But I thought early in the game, you know, that little lineup, and Burke's not small, but otherwise that's a pretty small lineup. I thought they did some nice things. I thought Cale Jacobson moved well, and against a team like Michigan, which was really big, they struggled a little bit to chase Nebraska around. And I thought that, well, obviously it hurt Nebraska's defense a little bit, but I thought it kept them all moving, and I thought Nebraska got good looks. And I mean, that was an incredible first half of basketball. I mean, in terms of that's just the way you want to draw it up. And to me, that was like, yeah, that's Final Four stuff. Second half was more of a rock fight, and clearly I thought that benefited Michigan. I think Michigan slowed it down a little, relatively speaking, and they were able to use their size. They got a couple of calls, but yeah, that's what I learned. I thought that small lineup is something they can use somewhere down the road against a large team.
I am fascinated by this, because I think there was sort of this idea as he played in the Crown, like, oh, you know, Cale Jacobson could help the team. And now we're at the point where he feels like he's sort of an integral part of this entire thing. How would you describe the Cale Jacobson career arc, and then sort of what he is as a player? Because he just kind of has a little bit of everything in his game in a really unique way that you don't find very often.
Yeah, it's an incredible career arc. So the reality is, you know, Raleigh Worcester doesn't have that chronic ankle injury. I'm not sure how much Cale plays in the Crown.
Oh yeah,
because they kind of shut Raleigh down. They're just like, you know what, he really can't go anymore. So we're going to go ahead and call it a career for him, and you know we're going to give Cale a shot. And it was at that moment that Cale really got an opportunity, because he had not played a ton prior to that. And then I think what he showed at the Crown gave them feeling of like, okay, this guy's got to be part of the team next year. And he's probably playing ahead of Kendall Blue. That's probably the guy that he plays ahead of, and certainly deserves to. And he made a couple of plays in last night's game that were as pretty in their own way as anything Braden Frager does. And of course, Braden Frager is the highlight reel with the dunks, but you know, the little pivot in the lane for the layup. And then, you know, I liked the driving baseline and come curling back around and shooting that little rainbow over Mara. And he just does a lot of little things, and in that way he's a little bit like Sam Hoiberg. And so those two players I'll never forget when Sam was inserted into the operation a couple of years ago when Vandemel and Gary got hurt, and you know, and nobody was quite sure what was going to happen. And then all of a sudden, you know, they play Maryland and Sam Hoiberg gets a steal. Everybody's kind of looking around like, yeah, okay, this is not just the coach's kid. This is a player. This is a guy who can play. And look where Sam is now. So I think Jacobson's on a little bit of that timeline too, maybe a little bit further behind, but like by the time next season, Sam won't be there and Cale will. And it's possible that Cale is that guy, you know, that he's able to do all the things that Sam's doing now. So that's kind of where I see his trajectory going. And there's going to be a moment in the Big Ten or the NCAA tournament where they need him, and he's, you know, and he'll have to come through. I thought he was the best player in the second half for Nebraska last night.
He handled it the best.
You know, he did. Sanford and Lawrence got tired, and Buchanan Joe, honestly, I thought got a little scared around the rim. Like he thought that the 7-foot guy was behind him, and he wasn't. And there was a couple of layups there where I thought he rushed them, and he didn't have to because the guy that was against him was not as tall as he was. And if he had just slowed down a little bit on those two plays, honestly, I think Nebraska wins the game. I think that was the moment. And I'm not trying to say it was his deal, because I thought he played pretty well and he had a hard assignment dealing with all the Giants. But on those two particular plays, I think he was thinking about guys that weren't necessarily right against him in that moment. If those two plays go in, I'm not sure Michigan has enough fuel to get back, because they didn't really make any shots. They were
famously.
They weren't very good in the second half. And I want to appreciate where the athleticism that Michigan has. But I thought they played kind of carelessly, and I don't know that I see that team. So I watched all 5 of the top 5 teams in the last 48 hours. And I had to watch a little bit on DVR, but I watched Duke and Arizona and Connecticut playing Providence, and then, Michigan and Nebraska. I wouldn't put Michigan at the top of the list there by any means. And they all played pretty good teams, too. Well, UConn didn't, but, Duke played Louisville. Duke looked the best of the 5, unfortunately, for people who don't like Duke. But, I wouldn't put Michigan at the top there. I thought they played kind of carelessly at times, and almost like they expected their size to come through, and it did. But I kind of thought they got outcoached and outplayed in a lot of ways by Nebraska.
Sam McKeown from the Omaha World Herald is with us. All right, Sam, let's get to this. Let's get to this football schedule. We knew what was happening as far as the non-con is concerned with Ohio, Bowling Green, North Dakota. It was just going to be, how do you stack up these opponents? The thing that people's eyes go to right away is the Indiana, Oregon back-to-back, and then Ohio State, Iowa back-to-back at the end of the year. Is that what your eyes go to right away? Or, there's already going to be talk, I think, about Nebraska and how much they need to start 5-0. Like, what do you take away from taking the first couple glances at the thing as a whole?
The first place I went was the 5-0 thing. The second place I went was November. And so Nebraska is 2-10 in November under Matt Rule. And this isn't necessarily a November that tells you they're going to do much better than 20%. They could go 2-2 in that stretch. And if they did, I'd say that was pretty good. At Illinois, at Rutgers, Ohio State at home, and at Iowa. If you told me they were going to win at Rutgers, I believe that. They've never lost to Rutgers. But then you're telling me that they're going to win either at Illinois, at Iowa, or versus Ohio State. I'd take 2-2 in that stretch right there. And then, on the front end, you look at the start of the season, and you obviously the game at Michigan State, winnable, but they haven't won at Michigan State since 2012.
Yeah.
And then Maryland, which they got to win that game. That's a must win. Maryland's on the ropes a little bit. They're, I don't know that Mike Loxley should be on the hot seat, because I don't know that that's a job that anybody could win at really well. But I suspect he's going to have to get to a bowl game next year, or otherwise be invited to seek employment elsewhere. So, 5-0 has got to be what it is, and it's an opportunity to create momentum. And then you get Indiana rolling in here. And did Indiana have a big game the week before Nebraska? I saw their schedule, and then I got kind of caught up in the basketball.
No, they play. They're pretty weak before Nebraska. They go to Rutgers the week before Nebraska, and before that it's Northwestern, and then their non-con is obviously crap.
Yeah, well, then they're going to roll in with. Yeah, they are. You're right.
They're going to be 5-0.
So,
yeah,
they are. Sometimes you get a little bit of whatever if you get 2 road games in a row there. Nebraska's the second of those 2 road games, but you just. You play Indiana the best you can, and we don't know exactly what they're going to be. They do have to replace some good football players, including their middle linebacker, who is sort of the heart and soul of that defense, including Mendoza. Although I think they can get about 80% of Mendoza with Josh Hoover. I really do.
Oh, he's good. Yeah,
including the receivers though, and those receivers, Surratt and Cooper, are no joke. And I know Charlie Becker came on, but those other 2 guys are special players, and they're not easy to replace. So, they're going to be good, but I don't know that I would put them in the class that they just most recently were. So you just got to play that game as it sits, and then you got to go take your shot at Oregon, and that's all you can do at Oregon. Very few teams win there. It's a very tough environment. It's a great environment, and Nebraska will just have to take a shot. That's all you can do, is go out there and try to play your best and get that game into the fourth quarter and hope you have a shot. Only Indiana in recent years has won there. Outside of Indiana, I think it was Kalen DeBoer's Washington back in what year. But so it's a long shot to go out there. So you look at maybe a 5-0 start, then you take your shot against Indiana, you take your shot against Oregon, you get your bye week, you come back, you raise hell on Halloween, and you got to win that game. Washington's a good team, but you got to win on Halloween. That's just a rule. And because you're going to have your frothiest crowd of the year, and everybody's going to be dressed up, and it's going to be whatever. So you got to win on Halloween, and then you got to go 2-2 late, and you add all that up, and maybe you're at 8-4, 9-3. That's about what I would say. I mean, I'm not sitting here and telling you 10-2 or 11-1. I think the schedule's dang hard, and I think Nebraska has too many questions for me to sit here and say, yeah, they're going to win 10 games. I just don't. I think that's just too far-fetched at this moment. Maybe I'd change my mind by August, but that's where I'm at.
I hadn't considered where the alternate jersey game would be, and now it's definitely going to be a Frankenstein version of uniform on Halloween. So we have that.
You think so, right?
We have that squared away. Sam, I want to ask, so
Unless you do 5-0 Indiana blackout.
ooh,
Because
the thing you want to do is really make that game a bigger target with that coach. But with Nebraska, if you're taking the optimistic view of this schedule, that 5-game runway allows them to really sort of, in theory, these are always in theory conversations, work out some of those kinks, particularly with the fact that the non-conference is relatively light. You're going to be ushering in a new offensive line, and not a new offensive line, but a mostly new offensive line and a new quarterback. I mean, so if you're going optimistic with Nebraska, that runway of the first 2 conference games and your 3 non-conference games is really kind of got to be where you hang your hat on, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the advantages that Nebraska will get is they'll get to see what Michigan State really is, because Michigan State plays Notre Dame the week before they play Nebraska. And so, Nebraska will understand what Michigan State really is. Michigan State is going to be a mystery prior to that, because they're going to be playing overmatched teams, and they're going to be playing in games. They have a lot of new players. And so it's going to be kind of a rebuilt team. And I frankly don't think it's going to be great. And so I think, you'll get a sense of that. And then again, you get Maryland. So yeah, I mean, that's the runway that you want. You want to be able to work out some of those things for those games are at home. I know internally, I think Nebraska would love to have 2 home games in November. I think it's hard to go on the road 3 times late in the season because of the wear and tear. But I think they're going to look at how they travel and try to examine the best ways to do that going forward. The Rutgers trip isn't easy. And then, again, you get Ohio State late, and I don't think there's any good time to get Ohio State, really.
Yeah.
They're a good team, and they're going to do what they do. But, I don't think that's a bad time to get them.
The week before Michigan seems like it's an inviting time to get them, to be honest.
Yeah.
Maryland almost knocked them off that one year, I think.
That's right. 52-51. Ohio State in September hasn't been really nice to Nebraska. That's been ugly. But then there was the 62-3 in early November too, back in 2016. So there's no easy time to get them. I do think you got to go try to win a couple of these big games at home, and you got to find a way to try to beat Ohio State or Indiana at home, and use your crowd, which they have not won big games at home in a long time. So maybe this will be the year.
All right, Sam, we will let you go. Always appreciate you stopping by, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right, take care, guys.
Sam McEwen from the Omaha World Herald. Good stuff as always. He's got takes on the schedule and plenty more up on omaha.com right now. Okay, so he mentioned, just quickly do this. He said, well, he didn't assign a win total to it.
Sure. Are we doing that? Are we going to go through the schedule, win-loss?
Snapshot in time. I don't even want to do it win-loss. I want to do even quicker thought than that. Just look at it and give me a number.
7.
My answer is 6.
Yeah. I'm leaning slightly more optimistic than I probably would if I went through game by game. But looking at it, 7 wins feels obtainable, but they would have to do things that they haven't done.
Yeah.
Like beat quality teams.
Right.
Either home or away.
And do it and beat teams who are as good as you or worse than you from, once again, in theory, consistently.
Yeah.
And that is something that is,
I mean, it all hinges on starting 5-0.
yeah,
And then from there, it's just hold on to your butt.
gonna want to do that. All right, we'll take a break, round out the hour. Just we'll step outside of our bubble here real quick and ask you this question: how is Bill Belichick not a first ballot Hall of Famer? After this on 1620 The Zone. John emails in the Equitable Bank inbox here on Happer and Schaefer. Hoiberg has created a repeatable system, as you said, but Rule has done the same thing. You guys both just predicted this year's record, and it's the same thing that we've gotten since this guy got here. 5 to 7 wins. It's going to be repeated over and over until Nebraska can afford to fire him. That is an awfully dark look at the next couple of years, but certainly possible.
Well, I mean,
certainly possible. I don't think that they would wait. Like I think maybe this is a very inappropriate conversation, but when does the buyout stop being prohibitive?
I think when the results completely diminish.
I agree. So from that perspective, the buyout isn't prohibitive.
No.
If they're so bad next year, the buyout doesn't matter.
If Nebraska goes 2-10, it's a real conversation. If Nebraska goes 3-9, it's a conversation. If they go 4-8, it's a muted. It's a loud conversation, but over there, it's not as big of a conversation.
Yeah.
In the likelihood that they finish somewhere around 5, 6, or 7 wins, he will be back for a 4th year, 5th year.
Yeah.
I've already just deleted 1 year and out of my brain.
At which point, the next year it has to be much better.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
In theory.
So I think for everybody who's like, well, they can't, they won't do anything because of the buyout. Like if it's so bad, the buyout, we've seen this over and over again. Now I know they got a lot of stuff on their plate and they're trying to build a new stadium and all this crap, but like, if it goes really bad,
yeah,
they have to be competitive. You have to be good at football. Like that's the story.
And they haven't been.
They
for
have not,
too long.
They have not been good at football. Bill Belichick. So this is just reporting as of now. Seth Wickersham, I think, had a hand in this because obviously he's very close and tied up with the Patriots and that era. So we don't learn the results of the Hall of Fame voting until the Super Bowl, traditionally every year. But it is reported that in voting earlier this month, Bill Belichick, the head coach of the North Carolina Tar Heels, fell short of the 40 out of 50 votes needed for induction to the Pro Football Hall of Fame in his first year of eligibility. This comes from multiple sources. According to the ESPN story, several sources who spoke with the coach over the weekend described Belichick as, quote, puzzled and, quote, disappointed by his inability to secure support from at least 80% of Hall committee members. As Belichick asked an associate, referring to the championships he won as the head coach of the Patriots, quote, 6 Super Bowls isn't enough? What does a guy have to do? Which is a fair question for Bill Belichick. How does this happen? I don't like.
This happens when you have the people voting for it make it about themselves and not the candidate of which they're voting for.
I mean, he's really been drugged through the mud lately is with the whole Jordan, North Carolina sucks. Like, I get it, but I don't think that should really hurt his NFL.
No.
I mean, it could hurt his NFL legacy,
which is his NFL legacy,
which is more of a broad term because then you think about the person. It shouldn't hurt his Hall of Fame candidacy. No. So it's not that. Is it the Deflategate stuff? Like, I don't know. I don't know how this is possible.
Again, I think it comes down to people that vote on this stuff sometimes make it, you see this in Major League Baseball a lot. They make it more about them and their vote than the people that they are actually voting for.
But if
they've decided that they don't like Bill Belichick, they're going to punish him by not voting for him in the Hall of Fame.
But the people who vote for the Baseball Hall of Fame, they're probably making it about them, but also you could just have the steroid excuse at the end of the day, or like Kurt Schilling. But we don't have any of that with Bill Belichick.
Yeah,
there's no scandal.
I can't explain it. It doesn't make any sense to me because he's won 6 Super Bowl titles and played for several more and has been a part of, multiple iterations of the NFL. Like, the league had to adjust to him. So the thing about the Patriots, and far be it from me to wax poetically about the Patriots, but they're a fascinating study in how you adapt and survive in the NFL. Like, they changed their teams over time to fit the league that they were playing in. They were a defensive, game-oriented, game managing oriented team early in Tom Brady's career. They get Randy Moss. They have the best offense in the NFL and nearly go undefeated. They are the first team that I can recall to have two legitimate threats, both to humanity in Aaron Hernandez's case, but also on the field with Rob Gronkowski as tight ends. Like, you think about what we think about tight ends right now, that in a lot of ways starts the modern tight end starts with Rob Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez. I know Tony Gonzalez did his thing, but the way that offense was run, they changed the sport in that regard. And like, so like all of these things should matter in so much as like these are extra data points besides he won 6 Super Bowls.
Right, I know. Yeah, that's the thing.
The fact that he played in 9 of them is already monumental.
Like, just close all of the other books. Like, whatever arguments that we do with Hall of Fame arguments, and I got to admit they're fascinating because they're wide ranging and there's a lot of stuff that goes into them. But like, you get the case file of Bill Belichick, and it says 6 Super Bowls and an assistant for 2 more. You probably just close the case file.
Yeah,
it's over. That guy's a Hall of Famer on the first ballot.
Do you
now
he'll make a case file?
He'll make it. He'll make it.
It's dumb. It just feels like it's people punishing him because they didn't like him. Which, okay, fine, whatever. But you know this, like, you're in the sports business. Like, it's not about you. Like, that's the thing that sometimes drives me up a wall. Like, you listen to or you watch people give their takes or whatever, and they make it about them, but it's really about the game that they're talking about. But really, it's about them. It's the same thing in this vote. Like, whether you liked him or not is immaterial. Whether he treated the media well or not is immaterial. Whether he's a cantankerous jerk is immaterial.
Yep.
He's unequivocally the best football coach from a Super Bowl standpoint that has ever existed. And since legacy is built on Super Bowls, that alone should have gotten him in.
Agreed. By the way, Charles writes in, have we rung the gong lately? No, it's been like 2 hours.
I've had a couple gongs today. Couple gongs. It's been a gong-heavy show. I apologize.
All-time
I don't
high
want to make it
gong
about
day.
me.
No, don't make it about you, because then, you're like the NFL Hall of Fame.
I made it about them. What I'm getting at is I don't want to be Stephen A. Smith, where all of my takes are informed on how I feel.
What was his
about
crazy take the other day?
There's too many to remember.
It was Ryan Clark for
Ryan
Steelers
Clark
head
should have got
coach.
Steelers head coach an interview. I believe
Why?
that's what he said. I don't know what's inside of his brain. I
Is
have no
there an
idea.
inside?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. These people are robots. They just make takes up. They're like Cartman's Osmo 3000.
You know how they're
What
used
if
to,
like Adam Sandler, Ryan Clark should be the head coach of the Steelers?
There used to be a joke that there'd just be like this take generator that people could use. Like, there are times where it feels just have that.
And oftentimes they come out of nowhere. Like, nobody was ever thinking about Ryan Clark to be the head coach of the Steelers. But
normally it's super normal to take an NFL analyst and put him as a head coach. Oh, wait, the Colts did that, and it went very poorly for Jeff Saturday. You're right, Stephen A. Smith. This is what
Famously blew a 33-0 lead to the Minnesota Vikings.
It was
a good Christmas for one Mike Schaefer.
All right, let's take a
sure it
break.
was.
9 o'clock hour. We're wide open, so we want to hear from you all as well. 402-951-1620. We'll take a couple of your tweets. We also have to talk about Creighton last night, sadly for them and most of the people involved. Unless you're Mike Schaefer, who's sitting there. He's like, I'm the happiest person in the world. You can't tell me nothing. It's great.
Not the happiest person in the world.
All right, sorry. Back after this on 1620 The Zone. All right, 9 o'clock hour, Happer and Schaefer on 1620 The Zone, 1620thezone.com. Dynasty Combat Sports kicks off New Year's knockouts in the Metro on Saturday at Liberty First Credit Union Arena with a whole bunch of different stuff going on, including Houston Alexander stepping back into the ring. Matt will have your tickets this week on the show. Once again, that is Dynasty Combat Sports New Year's Knockouts on Saturday at Liberty First Credit Union Arena. Okay, let's do. Have we covered every possible angle with Nebraska basketball? I think we've ranted on it. We did the whole Peacock thing. We did fouls.
Yeah, I got my Cale Jacobson thing in with Sam. He was really good.
What it means for the season, all that.
So I think we're good with Nebraska basketball.
Okay, let's move on to the game that
I mean,
followed.
I could rant about Peacock again if you want, but I don't think I need to.
Well, did you enjoy the TNT presentation last night? Brian Anderson, Grant Hill, lovely.
They could have been with a different broadcast network, and I might have enjoyed it more. Because
you don't want them to work on TNT
I would have spent
anymore?
more time with it. By the time I got home from where I watched the basketball game at, Creighton was already playing, so I didn't get any kind of lead into it. I just jumped right into the game with Brian Anderson and Grant Hill.
Well, you'll be getting a lot of them when the NCAA tournament rolls around. They like to use some of these games as a bit of a tune-up. They that same crew did one of the Creighton games in Vegas as well. So weirdly, that crew has had a couple of times. And if you recall, Creighton in Vegas wasn't necessarily a pretty sight, unless it was the one game that happened right before Thanksgiving, the Oregon game. But my goodness, that was rough. We talked about it yesterday. I called Marquette the dunking team, which is designated for the worst team in the Big East who just likes to dunk. They certainly were the dunking team, but they ripped Creighton a new one last night.
Yeah.
Getting out to a 52-23 lead at half. It became a shrug your shoulders. What are you supposed to do? Then in the second half, like there was a little bit of life to them. Cut the lead all the way down to, I think, 14, which maybe there was like a ever so slight glimmer of hope there that they could pull off the impossible given how bad Marquette has been this year. But all things told, it's going to be tough for me to forget how it looked in that first half, which I think identified and established a new floor for Creighton basketball this year. It was horrible on every level, and Marquette, the worst team in the league so far, to that point, they went right at them. They went right at him. No fear whatsoever.
The Achilles heel for Creighton is if they don't shoot well enough, their defense is so bad they can't even stay in games.
100%.
Like there's that's what that first half was. And it wasn't for the lack of looks. They had open looks.
Yeah,
guys didn't make them. And then you have Marquette just going to the other end quickly, getting into the paint, finding ways to score. They hit a couple threes. For me right now, the image of Creighton's season is at the very end of that half. I don't know who made it for Marquette. I'm not familiar with their roster, but
I think it was Chase Ross.
He just tucked into that corner, as deep into the corner for a corner three as you can get, puts it up, splashes it, and McDermott's walking off the floor into halftime before the sound has even gone for the end of the first half. What that tells you,
it's one of those Bo Pelini, just like toss your hand and just like forget about it.
And
I texted somebody in the first half, like, what do you even? I think it was one of my friends. What do you even say? Like at this point in the season,
that's what I was like. What is the halftime? Like at this point, you're down 28 points or whatever, 24 points at half, whatever it ended up being,
and especially considering, like if you square it up contextually, Creighton was coming off of like a gift, right? Two home games, 2 out of the 3 games in total, 2 home games where it felt like you kind of got away with murder and you got a new lease on life.
A lot of murder in this show today.
Yeah, sorry about all the murder mentioned, but like you scraped by against Georgetown by a frame of a shot, and you scrape by against Xavier because you chased out an offensive rebound and banked in a shot at the end of the game. And so and you've had a week off, almost an entire week off to this point. And it felt like an environment that would have been conducive to Creighton really being locked in and ready to go. Obviously, they were not.
And maybe the lesson there, what we could have taken away from is that they having to scrape by meant their margin of error was so thin that if they came out and shot like this,
right,
what happened could happen.
I think it was always, as we've talked about, like I think it was always a game by game thing with them. Like you just never know.
But the hope is you're playing the
get.
Worst team in the league. You're not going to have a performance like this.
Exactly. Like just from whether you're making shots or missing shots, the thought is, okay, our standard and what we do, how we move and how we execute, that cannot change. That's a little, obviously, that has quite a significant amount of variance this year compared to most years for Creighton. But that was his, low energy, low effort. Max said, after the game, he said, we practiced like crap on Sunday. And, that has been a consistent storyline all year with this team. And dating back to it now in the preseason, when you think about it, I remember talking about this in September, going to practices, stopping in, and, ask anybody else who was there, one of, 3 or 4 other people, and they would say, yeah, you would show up to practice and there would be a different guy doing, going off, being their best player, looking like their best player on any given day. And we chalked that up to, oh, well, that's just kind of the inconsistency with rotations and you don't know who you are yet. And I think there's still an element of truth to that. And you didn't have, Freeman in the lead up in the preseason, so you didn't know about how that was going to go. But maybe looking back, it was a red flag of like, oh, the effort and the energy and the intensity and the focus isn't nearly consistent enough to be the team even that they want to be. I don't know what the ceiling is for this group. We haven't found it, and we're not close to finding it because they can't do the stuff that establishes a floor. They can't do the things consistently enough that establishes some sort of consistency with what you're doing.
I mean, I think
I wonder how good they are. I don't know that. I don't know the answer to that question. And if you're inconsistent for long enough, eventually you're just inconsistent.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of where they're at.
Exactly.
So it's, to me, the record indicates sort of what they are as a team. They have losses on the road to Providence and to Marquette, and they have wins at home over Georgetown and Xavier in their last 4, and none of them were easy contests. None of them did. They look different in all of those games for a variety of different reasons. It doesn't feel like you have anything that you can just count on with Creighton at this point in time. You can't count on great outside shooting. You certainly can't count on the defense showing up and playing well. You can't count on anybody, providing a big leadership aspect to this team, which I think is something that I just go back to listening to McDermott in Vegas when you're out there interviewing him. And it sounded like a coach who was sort of frustrated by the fact that he didn't know what he had on his own roster.
Yep.
And so he would try to assign roles, or at that time, it felt like he was really pushing, like he wanted Jason to be this, to take command kind of thing of this team. And maybe that wasn't happening to the level that he needed. And it's a tough way to live. Like when I scoffed yesterday about them being a bubble team, in part because I just don't know how they put it together to even get to the point of being a bubble team.
Right.
Like they feel like they're going to go 16-14 or whatever it would be, 17-14 in the regular season. Maybe they could string some wins together in the Big East tournament and they're 19-15 or something like that.
Yeah, like I said, I still don't know what their ceiling like.
I wouldn't even be shocked if they went out and won on Saturday against UConn, because UConn has been playing all of these games against these similar opponents.
Yeah, they've gotten away with murder a couple of times.
I don't know how Creighton's defense can slow, this matchup is very difficult for a variety of reasons, but right now Creighton's defense is so bad. I don't know how they can keep them in the game unless the offense just scores enough that, can make up for it.
Yeah. And there are undermanned teams who, have the ability to, you look at it and say, oh, well, they don't have a big, and so they don't have rim protection, and it's just going to be hard that way. It is, but
They make up for it in the margins elsewhere or some
gotta
other
come
way.
up with something else.
Yep.
Yeah. And at this point, you see it a lot. I think you see a lot of frustration, I think, boiling over at this point. People always comment about like substitution patterns. They're like, what's going on with like
looking for a spark?
100% of the
That's
time.
what it is.
After
when you're playing that many guys and it's not going well,
a blown
that's what
assignment on defense, a mistake, a mental mistake on offense, whatever it might be, you'll immediately see him say, point at the bench, get up, go back in. And usually that person is Jason or Josh Dix because those are the guys that feel like he has a semblance of trust. I mean, probably, Austin Swartz offensively. And you're running out of options.
Well, yeah, and I think what Isaac Stroud is, but it's very limited in what he can give you, and it hurts you more on one end of the court than it seems to be helping you on the other.
Right.
So it's that they're just a very imperfectly put together roster, and so trying to win this way when you don't have one of the key pieces that you're expecting to have makes it a challenge.
Here's Pedro on the text line. He says, "Hi guys, Connor. I am just wondering why the best low post player in the Missouri Valley is not on the Blue Jays team. I would have thought that the Blue Jays had more NIL money to offer King. Our season would be better with him on the team." Yeah, I've seen a lot of people over the last couple of days make reference to what Fred King is doing this year. He would have been a nice guy to have that down there, still not providing like super elite rim protection or anything like that, but obviously a solid player. And given what Creighton is had so far this year in the low post, if you could go back and bring it and insert him on the roster, it would probably make a significant difference at this point. I always just felt like, though, without knowing the situation, I always just felt like he was going to leave. I always just felt like that was going to end. He had entered the transfer portal the year before in the last offseason and then came back. And I always just felt like he wasn't going to be at Creighton anymore for his entire career. And he's found some success at Murray State at this point. But no doubt about it, he would have been a nice guy to have. Any help in the post right now would be nice. I mean, it is scratching and clawing for anything at this point. Jason Green is hurt. And
they would love to have Leo Curtis on their team. Right?
Would love to have Leo Curtis. I mean, look at it. Like you and Rob tweeted out last night, like your low post, your post options are Freeman, who is sick/hurt/ineffective. Jason, who is hurt and is undersized, is 6'8". Josh Townley Thomas, who's a walk-on and was kind of giving him good stuff at the beginning of the year, got hurt. It is still working his way back at this point. Dmitrievich, who is redshirting and wasn't ready when he stepped on campus. And I think I'm probably missing another guy at this point as well. I'm probably forgetting about somebody. But like, those are all your options. That's how it's turned out in an already thin spot. It's tough to live. It's tough to live that way. With that being said, you would have liked to see a better, more focused effort last night from Creighton. So they go to 12-9, and they are dropping significantly in the metrics department. I don't think we'll probably have to worry about the metrics, quote unquote, much longer, if at all, at this point. That loss will kill you. That loss hurts, even though it's on the road. If you go back and beat UConn and Pink out on Saturday, then maybe the conversation restarts a little bit. But either way, I
think at some point they got to win like 3 games in a row for that conversation to restart.
They haven't won 2 games in a row since December 22nd and December 30th. That would be Utah Tech and Butler. Both home games. Let's take a phone call. Sure, we can switch gears here and talk about whatever you guys like. 402-951-1620. Here's Dave on the Prairie Flower Casino Zone hotline. Hi, Dave.
Hey, fellas. So, quick question. Do you guys have City League basketball in Nebraska or Omaha?
Do we have what basketball?
City League, like old man basketball?
Yeah, oh yeah. I don't play, but yes.
So Nebraska's team reminds me of old man basketball, where you got a bunch of guys who've been playing together for 20 years, and they bring in some young guy out of college who stopped playing, organized ball, and they just know how to move without the ball. They just know where they're going to be, and they just slow cut you to death, and you just find yourself like, how the hell do we lose to them? and next thing you know, they're up by 20. It's so fun to watch. It feels like they've been together for years, or if not decades.
You know, it's funny. Yeah. And thanks for the call, Dave. I agree. I saw somebody who tweeted that out yesterday, and like that, I think it was a person who's in like the Creighton like burner community, and there was a group of Nebraska fans who were angered by it, and the response was like, dude, it's a compliment. Like, seriously, I mean it. Like, this is a compliment. This is a good thing.
Yeah.
They beat the living crap out of you just with fundamentals, excellent passing, and flawless execution constantly. Like, that is a compliment of the highest order in basketball.
Yeah, like when you refer to a player specifically as like a noon ball type or a noon ball vet, whatever it would be, what you're talking about is they're just innate understanding of how to win in certain situations, or how to use the glass, how to use your left hand, how to fluster somebody, all of these types of things. I mean, so to be compared to that certainly is not it's not an insult. Now, again, it also speaks to Nebraska plays like a team that it doesn't look like. People's expectations when they come onto the court of what Nebraska is going to do and how they play and what the success that they're going to achieve are not there.
Yeah, I think they definitely take some people by surprise.
And so, I think that's part of why they catch some of these teams early in games. Like Michigan was not prepared for what Nebraska brought to them yesterday.
No, didn't seem like it.
And, it's just unfortunate for Nebraska. The circumstances didn't allow for them to have a couple of their players or to leave Ann Arbor with a win. But they absolutely, we had the conversation yesterday, Happer, and I was dismissive of it. And what ended up happening was the opposite, where you asked, like, if Nebraska hangs around, if people wouldn't have that conversation of, oh, I'm more impressed now. And I was like, no, it's just going to be we didn't think that they were that good to begin with. So, of course, this is a result. Well, the fact that they didn't have Rink Mass, the way they started the game, the way they hung in there, and the fact they led for 37 of the minutes of the game.
It's a classic Ryan Russillo take, Yeah. Hey, I'll tell you what, I came away more impressed with Nebraska out of that game. That was everyone's take last night. That was everyone's takeaway from it. I came away more
that
impressed
meme.
with Nebraska.
There was one done over the what was it? I think it was done during the AFC Championship game, and it was something about.
I actually came away more impressed with the snow.
It's something like that.
Yeah.
Came away more impressed with playing in the snow than I ever have been before.
But there's some truth to that. Which, and we could shelf this for a second, but might be a little bit more, even more juice to Saturday now. Like people, there might be
Sunday.
Sunday. An edge of anger. Almost.
Yeah. Oh, I think Pinnacle Bank is going to be thirsty for that.
Okay.
Like
hungry, thirsty.
Whichever one of the 7 officials the Big Ten actually employs that always seem to, 3 of them are always in Lincoln at all times, whether it's
and another assumptive call.
Yeah.
This time, one-eyed Pat Driscoll.
Probably won't be him.
Bad eye on that one.
No, I don't think so.
It won't be Pat Driscoll.
K5 will be there though. You could bet. You could bet your butt.
You got Pfeiffer. You've got you referred to as high knees and not in a
Jeffrey Anderson. Yeah. Oh,
you just have all of these guys that are always there, always involved, and I'm sure that the first time they make a call that the fan base is deemed somewhat questionable, it is going to be a vocal booing. They might get booed just running onto the court. Like is
this a potential boo everything game?
Could be.
I haven't seen a boo everything game in a while.
It could be that we could be on pace for that. And I think it's kind of helps that no one really likes Brad Underwood really anywhere outside of, I think, the state of Illinois and
not
even
an enjoyable
inside
team.
the state of Illinois.
No.
They are a very good basketball team.
The European All-Stars?
Yeah, it's not like a super fun hang, I think, in some ways, in part because of Brad Underwood. So he will be working the officials before the game even starts. He'll be working the officials the entire time. He'll be red in the face. He'll be screaming in their face. He might get a technical. He probably won't get a technical. And one thing I can guarantee you, Illinois will have a big free throw advantage as they have every time these teams play. Every time. Now, some of that is style.
Yeah, thank you. That's all I want you to say. Just say some of it is style. Free throw discrepancies.
Some of it is Nebraska
are just
does
numbers.
not get the same calls other teams get in the same situation.
Some of it is that too. Let's take a break. We'll be back after this on 1620 The Zone. All right, choose your fighter. Choose your Friday night game for Nebraska football, which we'll probably find out about what in March, April, May, somewhere in that range would be my guess. So here are your choices. It will be a road game. Well,
Is
I
that
guess
guaranteed?
Do we know that for sure?
I don't think
Yeah.
we know that for sure. I think the Big Ten could turn around and be like, you know what? You're playing Maryland. You're playing them on a Friday.
Okay. So anything's on the table with the exception of the non-con games, the 9 conference games. Choose your fighter. I love how Joey has immediately entered the chat. Joey's ears went up. He's like, what? They're talking about schedules
Schedule?
I
again?
figured you need a schedule expert.
I do.
I got the line of games week by week for the Big Ten Conference, so you got a whole list of candidates.
And so what you're looking for is, can you find a week where you have like 3 other big games? 3 other big games, and then you would want to put another decent sized game or highlight a big brand who's playing somebody crappy on a Friday night. It's been a little bit of both over the first several years of doing this whole Friday night football thing. But what are we looking at? Joey, do you have any predictions right off the top here? Any thoughts?
Are you, as far as
like which
when
game
Nebraska is going to play a Friday?
Correct. Yes.
I would say the Michigan State. It's kind of a recipe for them to play that early Friday game rather than later. I don't think Nebraska fans are going to want to see 2 Friday games in the month of November, especially when you got that big game against Ohio State in between those 3 road games in that last 4 stretch.
It is a full week in the Big Ten that week. You have your Notre Dame Purdue week that week, which I would imagine that will be an NBC situation just to appease the Notre Dame
They
folks.
could put it on Peacock.
That might be
Nick
a candidate
Stauskas on the call.
That might be a candidate for the first of a NBC doubleheader because there's a few good games that week that are.
You like that idea, don't you?
I
in
really
that position.
do. Put Nick Stauskas on calls of everything from now on.
Or just bring back Colt McCoy.
Send Nick Stauskas to the Olympics. Let him call the skiing. He can do the cross country skiing and the shooting. He clearly can do that. He's from Michigan.
He's got just as much experience doing
when
that
they-
as he does basketball.
When they do the Summer Olympics in a couple years, he'll do the basketball.
Get Nick Stauskas to the Olympics. Oregon, USC is also that week. Iowa, Michigan is also that week. Minnesota, Washington, Wisconsin, Penn State. That's actually a really good week in the league.
It is.
Nebraska is at Michigan State. I've heard a lot of Michigan State guesses so far for Friday night games, and Joey is holding there. Somebody just
I already
said,
gave you mine. I'll reiterate it.
Go ahead, reiterate it.
Nebraska goes out to Eugene to take on Oregon. They put it on Fox.
So wild.
An Oregon night game on Fox on Friday. Nebraska taking on backup quarterback Dylan Raiola and starting safety Coy Parrish. Those are the only players on Oregon's team.
Now here's a question.
Not any of the other good players that were on their college football playoff.
Now
team
here's a
return.
question. I mean, I would assume Jason Benetti would be calling that game, but would there be any scenario where we get our 3-time Fox broadcaster Tim Brando and Devin Gardner up in Eugene for that kind of a game?
He doesn't work with Devin Gardner though, does he?
Yeah, he does.
I thought it wasn't Devin Gardner on the call as like the color analyst when he was in Lincoln last time.
Yeah, it was.
I think it was somebody
it was
else.
him.
Timmy B and Devin Gardner.
One of the adjustments that'll happen for me is
Devin Gardner keeps
I'll be
yelling.
listening to the broadcast more as I won't be in Lincoln as often.
These
Which is
Michigan
bad.
guys, they keep putting them on broadcasts. They
Michigan men make good broadcasters.
sort of interesting.
Bernard Robinson ready to get in the game. Someone call him up.
So I'm looking at the
Real
Friday
Peppers
nights.
wants a shot.
They did Friday nights through November 14
Okay,
last year.
that opens the door.
So that would be up to week 11 for this season,
And
for this upcoming season.
they skipped, I think they skipped a week. They skipped the World Series week, October 25th.
Nebraska
So-
off that week.
so
Which would have
about-
been the 24th.
Yeah, week 8, week 9, because week 9's on the 31st.
Okay. So these are just pieces of information. to have.
Nebraska, Washington at home on a Friday.
Some people
that
are
would
saying
stink.
on Halloween, like pre-Halloween Friday night, it would kind of be absurd.
Yeah.
in there. That would be a great crowd.
Since we know the Big Ten hates Nebraska with their schedules and really sticks it to them.
If you're following the Big Ten hates Nebraska narrative, what would be the Friday night game? Would it be
It would
that
seem
one?
the Washington one, right? You
To
first you
them
take
off
the
of
home game.
Halloween?
You take like one of the marquee home games, and you put it on a Friday, and then you rob people of the Halloween experience of it being on Saturday. Though you give the people Halloween to spend with their family. So maybe that works. I don't know.
What if like
That feels like that needs to be a night game, right?
I hope so.
Yeah.
That could be your blackout.
It is, but you're on that same Saturday as Ohio State and USC, so that's going to be a tough competition to claim that spot.
The NBC. Yeah, put it on nighttime BTN. I don't care.
Yeah, that it now feels like that's going to be a big noon kick, which is unfortunate for Washington.
Yeah, I guess it's okay for Nebraska. I said from the very beginning that it just
CBS could be a CBS.
could be CBS.
Yeah,
it just feels like Nebraska and Illinois is just a game that's for some reason created specifically for Friday nights. It's happened twice. One of them here and one of them there. So I'm looking ahead to Saturday, November 7th, and I see that Oregon and Ohio State are playing each other.
That's going to be big noon.
Almost certainly big noon. Michigan and Michigan State are playing each other. Iowa and Northwestern, UCLA, Minnesota, Penn State, Washington, Rutgers, Wisconsin, and Maryland, Purdue.
Don't forget that week.
So there's probably 3 other decent games there.
Don't forget that week Miami is on the road at Notre Dame, so that might be the primetime NBC game.
Interesting.
So there might be an NBC.
Joey's all over this.
game.
I love it.
It's incredible.
You got to factor Notre Dame in these equations.
Yeah, because Notre Dame famously the 19th Big Ten team.
Why don't they just add them? Anyway, put me down for Illinois just so I could stick with the narrative of Nebraska and Illinois always playing on Friday.
I think Nebraska Rutgers is a real option the week before that too.
That feels fun.
I think Husker fans will gladly take an extra day of practice before the Ohio State game.
But could you do it though? But the other way, Joey, is the fact that they play at Illinois. It'd be going at Illinois, short rest, long road trip at Rutgers.
I
don't
they
think
did it last season, but that last time it was a disaster. So I see your point right there.
Yes, but last year the shorter trip was second. This year, the shorter trip would be first, which you want I think that's generally the better situation that Nebraska had it last year. You can't make them take the long road trip on short rest, right?
They sure can. Mick Cronin says they can make them do whatever they want.
True.
I mean,
Mick
those
Cronin would be so
those
bad
West
about
Coast teams have to deal with it.
Yeah,
Some of them.
I don't think they care.
No, you're probably
If
right.
you're of a certain ilk in the conference, they might care. They might listen a little bit. I think there's still teams that haven't had to play on Friday night at home at this point.
Yeah.
But if you're Nebraska, I don't think you have much of a standing on any of it.
Johnny Mills in the Equitable Bank inbox. I can't wait to find out Nebraska's Friday night game. Once that happens, Rule and everyone can start talking about the short week and how hard it is.
It does get overblown.
It does.
They play on Friday against Iowa every year, and then for some reason, the Friday night Big Ten game that isn't Iowa gets talked about as if it's a novel concept.
Schedules are schedules. Mountain Dewey on YouTube, Joey, is with you. Michigan State. Lock it in.
Seems to make sense.
Give me Oregon.
Schaefer's going off the wall classic and taking Oregon in this regard, which I don't know. I could see any of them.
The Nebraska's a caliber of team where any of it sort of fits. Like the helmet works if you want to do the helmet thing, but also the recent results tell you that maybe sticking that game on a Friday night wouldn't be the worst idea if you wanted to highlight the Oregon brand.
Yep. It's a little bit Nebraska's a bit of a malleable
and not in a good way
at this point.
Some malleable things are great.
No, you want to have a brand that just like, oh, we got to put them here because they are that big. Nebraska a little softer.
We can put you here. We can
doughy.
put you there.
You can mold it whichever way
you can be
like.
on BTN for 6 straight weeks.
Also possible.
Yeah.
There is a BTN quota. People forget.
Everybody needs a BTN game. So when we do our fake, we're the representative for one of the network draft. Joey, you'll have to lay out all the things.
Yeah.
You have to lay out all the things that we need to know. That's important.
We're gonna need graphics like we're going to overtime, and you can put all the things out there on the
and then if somebody doesn't meet a quota or something like that, there's like a buzzer.
I'll write a tally sheet.
Okay, good.
All right, cut their mic as they're talking.
We'll be back. One final thing to get to as we return and round things out on Happer and Schaefer on 1620 The Zone. All right, many are asking, is this the offseason of downgrading? If you're an NFL team, let's check the tape on this real quick. So yesterday, the Bills promoted Joe Brady, who was 5 years ago, the young up and coming, hotshot coach from LSU.
And now he's just Joe Brady.
And now he's just Joe Brady. You're at a certain point, the hot shot wears off. Been through it a little bit. He gets promoted.
How often has the hot shot really ever hit, by the way?
I don't know. It's not very often where the hot shot keeps the hot shot moniker.
Right. I'm trying to think of, because a lot of it, like guys that end up being
maybe
successful.
McVay.
Yeah, but I don't know that people knew of him in the way that they knew of Joe. Like Joe Brady was a name because of what he did at LSU.
Yeah.
And I just don't feel like people knew of Sean McVay. They knew that he was young.
Shanahan?
Kyle Shanahan was a hot shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
hit.
And he's kept the hot shot name.
Have you seen the Tim, our guy Tim Verghese had this tweet. He found this or saw this online from like a year ago, calling Kyle Shanahan the Kendall Roy of the NFL. And then Kyle Shanahan wore a shirt that was very similar to something that Kendall Roy wore in like the last episode of Succession.
So good.
And Tim was like, "Oh no, Kyle."
No. We do not need him following the Kendall Roy character.
You don't need to be the Kendall Roy.
No. Okay, so Joe Brady's going to be the Bills head coach. They went from Sean McDermott to Joe Brady.
Downgrade.
I'd say so.
Are you going to go through every one?
I am.
Yeah,
I'm going to see where we're at on this.
So one downgrade.
Let's go to Tennessee. Robert Saleh from Brian Callahan.
I would say,
I think it's kind of an upgrade.
I think it's an upgrade, but I think it's
with Dayball OC. That's pretty good.
I would say it's a muted upgrade. Like I wouldn't call it a sizable upgrade because I'm not super big on Robert Saleh, but getting Brian Dayball to help with Cam Ward.
I'm good with
that's
Dayball.
Good.
Dayball OC, like that's a good situation for Cam Ward to be in. Let's see. Let's go to Let's go to New York. The Giants. Dayball out. John Harbaugh in. Upgrade.
So two upgrades to one downgrade.
All right. Let's go Mike Tomlin to Mike McCarthy.
Now, I feel like there has been some whitewashing of Mike McCarthy's struggles because he's been a good coach. Like he's had success with Green Bay, and then he had some success down in Dallas.
It's just odd. It's just odd.
It feels weird to me.
It's odd because they Tomlin, the thing on Tomlin was it just got stale because they've been doing the same thing, winning 9 games for a decade now.
And I don't see
Mike
how this
McCarthy loves
happen.
winning 9 games.
Yeah.
Exactly.
This feels like the same thing to me.
Yes.
And now the downside is Mike McCarthy is going to be at whatever the stadium's called in Pittsburgh and not
sure
AT&T, where he would look up at the video board and be puzzled.
The sun.
Well, he'd like look up there and be like scratching his head trying to figure it. Like that was him 3 times a game, and it's not going to look the same when he's wearing mustard yellow and everything else.
Very typical.
Miami. So I think it's downgrade. I think it's
if we gave Robert Saleh a slight upgrade, we give Mike McCarthy a slight downgrade.
On the bottom side of 50.
So now we're 2-2.
Miami. Mike McD to Jeff Hafley.
I think this is a downgrade.
I think it's a downgrade too.
Jeff Hafley was a struggling college football coach.
I am not disagreeing with their decision to
move on,
do away with Mike McD, but
do away.
Yeah. Goodbye, Mike McD. Baltimore, John Harbaugh to Jesse Minter.
Downgrade.
Agreed. And then Atlanta,
upgrade.
Raheem Morris to Kevin Stefanski. I agree. So what do we end up at? 3-3? Or 4-3? 4-3
4 downgrades, 3, but we still have Cleveland, who fired Stefanski, so that's going to be a downgrade almost no matter what.
That's true.
And we still have Oakland or Vegas.
Yikes.
Who I call Oakland because
I heard old man Richard's available.
We have one person.
Joey's trying to get Rich Bisaccia.
It seems like Webb Davis is going to end up being
experience.
the coach.
Davis Webb.
Yeah.
Webb Davis. I like it though.
Just refer to him last name, first name. I think that's going to be an upgrade though, because Pete Carroll iteration in Vegas was horrendous. I mean, he was horrendous.
It was really bad.
The operation was horrendous. So I'm going to blind upgrade there. Blind downgrade in Cleveland, blind upgrade in Vegas.
Is that all we have left?
I think so.
Yeah, I can't think of any.
And then
any
there
other
was
teams.
there was some OC stuff too, and well, you don't have to do upgrade downgrade at those positions. So maybe it isn't the off season of downgrading, but there are a couple notable ones.
So we decided it was 3 to 4, and if there's 2 more, it'd be 3 to 6.
Oh, by the way, I have some breaking information for you.
Breaking.
So you get to grade this. Browns, no more Kevin Stefanski. Reportedly, Browns in is Todd Monken. Honk, honk.
Okay.
He's honk. The Browns are honking for
It was
Monken.
better than I might have guessed. I don't know. I mean, it's a downgrade because I believe in Stefanski famously.
I agree
but it's
with you.
not like
It's not like it's bad.
no,
Yeah.
it's better than if there was some options there that would have been tougher, I think.
Sam writes in on Twitter, I'm floored that Schaefer hates all the Packers related guys.
Who are all the Packers related?
Jeff Hafley, Mike McCarthy.
Well, okay. I mean, have they
Well,
done?
well, you like one of them. You like Mr. Old Man Richard Bisaccia.
You
running the special
like
teams.
Rich Bisaccia?
Well, I want him to stay in his role
Hmm.
where he has elevated special teams. Joey, would you want Jeff Hafley as your head coach?
I think he's a great motivator. He's a great defensive coach guy. It's just dependent on who he brings in as a play caller. I haven't seen what he's done with the offense on Boston College, so that's my thing. But I would give him a chance because I thought he did a great job turning the Packers defense around and then keeping them afloat this past season despite having a suspect secondary, which one of them is somehow in the Pro Bowl with Shador Sanders.
Would you rather have Mike
Mm.
McCarthy than Matt LaFleur today?
That is very, very tough for me to answer.
Whoa.
But you jettisoned Mike McCarthy, not you. Well, maybe you.
You
because
did this. You're an owner.
The Packer fans
Yeah.
famously are owners and have that stock that they can't do anything with.
Yeah. I famously have a stock, and I should have some say.
Do you have it framed?
Yes, I do have it framed.
Nice. Of course.
They always have it.
You guys
framed.
can continue this
It's right next
Packers
to my bed.
conversation on
it
the
just-
podcast.
Just need to change the address on it.
Are we doing a Packers podcast,
I
Joey
think
and I?
There's got to be a breakout from this
NFC North,
where you just badger
NFC North,
Joey about the Packers all day.
NFC North podcast with Schaefer, McMaster, Joey, and
Oh,
Alliance.
Is it
the
Chance Alliance,
Chance
man?
Alliance representative. Yeah. All right. Anyway, we got to get out of here. That will do it for us today on Happer and Schaefer. If you missed anything, 1620thezone.com is where you can find it. The crossover is next.
Happer and Schaefer. It's